country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News.
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very good afternoon to you and a happy Monday. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you all the way through until 6 p.m. A cracking show awaits, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of the former politician Anne Widdecombe after they announced that new information and evidence had come to light. And the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, will be making a statement on this very topic during today's show. You can see live pictures there from the House of Commons. We believe Shabana Mahmood about to speak in around about an hour and a half time. Of course, we'll cross live to that as it happens. And also today in Parliament, the law will finally be changed so that Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed can finally be deported. But will Pakistan play ball? Will they take back the Rochdale rape gang monster? Or is it yet just more hot air? We'll have full analysis.
Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart.
Reform UK has today claimed that Andy Burnham is plotting a £38 billion tax raid, and that's the equivalent of £3,450 for every family. With taxes on death, taxes on homes, taxes on land, taxes on savings, are we witnessing a 1970-style war on wealth? I'll be joined in Westminster by the Reform UK's Roberts Jenrick. And ahead of Wednesday's World Cup semi-final clash, tensions between Argentina and England have reached fever pitch. Argentina's foreign minister has blasted the UK's illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands, with the topic apolitical football. Should Britain show Argentina a red card? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. May I just say the first time I've been hosting my show since the tragic news of Anne Widdecombe came in, how deeply shocked, just in pieces, we are, those who worked with Anne Widdecombe and knew her as a friend, as a colleague, as a confidant, as a mentor, just as an absolute legend, really, in British politics, particularly when we were in the Brexit Party early days. She just nurtured, helped, terrified, but got us on and fostered us as newbies and made us into better people, better politicians with her skills, with her grace. And when the news came in very early on Friday morning, on my day off, I was just utterly gobsmacked. I still am. And it's just been incredible to witness how the feeding frenzy on social media, it wasn't terrorism, it wasn't politically motivated, and then suddenly now it is being treated as counter-terrorism, with counter-terrorism police being involved. It's an unholy mess, and we hope to get to the bottom of it here on GB News. We'll be live from Anne Widdecombe's house, the late Anne Widdecombe, throughout the show, and we'll be in the Commons for statements from Shabana Mahmood about this breakthrough. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation in what very much appears to be the murder of the late Anne Widdecombe. Get into gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. Now it's time for your headlines, and here's Lewis Mackenzie.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon. 4 minutes past 3. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old man in custody has since been rearrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. This comes as the suspect is believed to have driven almost 300 miles to her home in Devon on the day of her death. Devon and Cornwall police confirmed they are not currently looking for any other suspects. Miss Widdecombe was found dead at her home in Devon on Thursday. Police believe she was killed nearly 24 hours earlier, around midday. 12 people have been arrested as a part of an investigation by counter-terrorism policing in London. The investigation, which is extreme right-wing terror-related, is connected to a suspected threat directed towards an Islamic event held in Suffolk over the weekend. Due to the concerns over the possible threat, advice was provided via Suffolk Police to the organisers of the event to close early. The government has announced that it's using new powers to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a written letter, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood told Parliament the UK has identified activity linked to the IRGC involving threats to life and intimidation on UK soil. It means it will be a criminal offence to invite support for or express an opinion or belief that is in support of them, assisting them in carrying out UK-related activities or engaging in conduct likely to materially assist them, and accept or retain a material benefit provided by or on behalf of them. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will also today set out the legal steps she will take to deport the freed ringleader of a Rochdale grooming gang. Shabir Ahmed was jailed for 22 years in 2012 for multiple counts of child sexual offences, including rape. He was released from prison on licence earlier this month. Calls have been mounting across the political spectrum for the deportation of Ahmed, who was stripped of his British citizenship following his conviction, leaving him with only Pakistani nationality. Argentina's foreign minister called the Falkland Islanders an artificially implanted population. He also said the 2013 referendum held on the islands, in which locals chose to remain British, was illegitimate and called for negotiations over the Falklands' future. He added the 1982 war and 2013 vote had failed to resolve the Falklands dispute, saying their sovereignty should not be decided by a population artificially implanted by the occupying power. The row was reinvigorated by the Argentine football team, who were filmed singing they would win the World Cup for Las Malvinas. England play Argentina on Wednesday night for a place in the final. And finally, sad news. Jurassic Park star Sam Neill has passed away at the age of 78. The Northern Ireland-born New Zealand actor was best known for his leading role in the dinosaur blockbuster films The Piano and Peaky Blinders. He appeared in more than 50 films during his distinguished career. No cause of death has been given, but Neill recently revealed he was cancer-free after being diagnosed with blood cancer in 2022. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. Let's get your finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Well, here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.34 US, 1.17 euros, and the price of gold is at £3,032 per ounce, with the FTSE 100 at 10,474 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Lewis. Top story this afternoon. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of Anne Widdecombe after new information and evidence came to light. A 28-year-old British man who was originally arrested on Saturday has now been rearrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, said that the police are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack and that she plans to update the House later on this afternoon. Well, let's now speak with GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White, who is down there for us near the home of Anne Widdecombe. Mark White, incredibly shocking and sad news when it broke on Friday. I recall I was on the show with you. I think a lot of people are still reeling at what's happened to Anne Widdecombe. Initially, it was dismissed. The police said, no, there's nothing to see here, really. No terrorism links, no political motivation. And yet now, a sudden change of tack. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, in fact, Devon and Cornwall police were very quick to suggest that there was no evidence pointing in the direction of terrorism or a political motivation. You know, that very afternoon that we broke the news on GB News that it was a murder inquiry, it was within that statement. And of course, it's there for a reason, and that's to kind of shut down an avenue of speculation that the police don't want people going down. So you don't hear, for instance, that there's no evidence pointing in the direction of a break-in gone wrong. The terrorism or the political motivation line, they're very eager to shut down initially because they're very concerned about the way in which the public might react. But while you can maybe see what the police motivation in doing that is, actually I think it's a bit counterproductive, Martin, because you're now 5 days on and it's very much the case that this is now being treated as the murder of Anne Widdecombe as an act of terrorism. That's why counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation. They've found new evidence, and I fully accept there will have been evidence that has come to light very recently that has brought about that change. But as I say, it perhaps just highlights the misjudgment here in being very quick to shoot down any suggestion of a terrorism and political motive when really they didn't know one way or the other. You know, in years gone by, the police would always say, we're ruling nothing in and nothing out. In many respects, that was a better approach than trying to shut down, I would suggest, one avenue of investigation.
OK, Mark, may I ask you about what's broken out on social media? In my opinion, there's been an unholy row between Reform UK journalists who are very upset. You know, they knew Anne well. I knew Anne very well. You know, we're very, very upset by the death of someone so dear to us, so loved, and so would never wish anybody any harm. Very outspoken, yes, but would never ever wish anybody any harm. So it's very, very shocking. And then journalists, let's be frank, who seem intent on weaponising this as some kind of Nigel Farage is trying to make political capital out of this, whereas in actual fact everyone's very, very upset about it. When the police said at this stage there is no link to terrorism, certain sections of the media seem to say that, well, therefore there is no link to terrorism and therefore you are ghouls. Why are you doing this? And yet here we are now, Mark White, the revelation comes through. Counter-terrorism police are looking at it. I just think Anne Widdecombe will be disgusted by this.
Yeah, and I think this just points to, as I say, the misstep perhaps in being very quick to come out and to say directly that there's no evidence pointing to terrorism or a political motivation, because yes, absolutely, to the strict letter, that was true. At that time they'd found no evidence, but in highlighting that over any other aspect of criminality that might have been involved in the untimely death of Anne Widdecombe, it looks as though they're specifically saying to you, stay away from that path, that's not what happened here. And that has given ammunition, of course, to those individuals who then have been shutting the likes of Nigel Farage down, who've said to him that, you know, what he's trying to do is make political capital out of this, when actually, in the fullness of this investigation, now 5 days on, it seems that his comments were very prescient, that, you know, he did feel that there may have been something more to the suspected murder of Anne Widdecombe than we were being told. Let's see where the investigation goes. It's certainly a very significant development today, and that's why, of course, the Home Secretary is now going to address the House of Commons. I think she'll be limited in what she can say, to be honest, because it is still a live investigation, Martin. So we'll get, yes, an indication that there are multiple avenues of inquiry that the police are investigating there, as the counter-terrorism detectives now formally take this investigation over. Quite what they are, we don't know. But what I'll say about terrorism investigations, by their very nature, they're complex, and often then the kind of information that comes to light later can be the kind of information from electronic devices that can be quite difficult to interrogate, to get into, especially if you don't necessarily get the cooperation of the person who owns that electronic device. It could be, you know, delving into an individual's background, speaking to associates and friends of that individual. More comes to light at that point. Social media history, all of that comes into play here, and is a kind of, often it's a longer term piece of the jigsaw, and by longer term I mean it can be quite a few days after the event before they come to light. So I do accept that Devon and Cornwall Police, when they said there was no evidence, probably had no evidence at that point. But again, just putting that out there just looked like it was a steer not to even consider that as a potential motivation and to look elsewhere.
Do you know, Mark White, just looking at the scenes there now, you know, honestly, it's just still so surreal. I just keep expecting Anne Widdecombe to bounce out with a tray of tea and biscuits, you know, because that's the sort of person she was.
Well,
okay, Mark, thank you very much for joining us there.
Well, no, she was absolutely like that. Sorry, bud. I was just going to say that I was in Anne Widdecombe's house a few times over the years as a young reporter, and it was exactly that. She never offered me a dram of whiskey, although I've been told she has offered some other people that. For me, it was a cup of tea, but it was always welcome, and she was a lovely lady.
Thank you very much, Mark White. Thanks for joining us there from down in Devon. I still can't get my head around it. I honestly still cannot get my head around it. You know, I've been off, I had a couple of days off, my sister's been over, and it's blown me away what's happened to Anne Widdecombe. But more than that, of course, throughout the show, we're expecting the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, to give a statement around about 4:45. Of course, we'll be live to the Commons when that happens. Now, on a busy day for the Home Secretary, she is also preparing today to change the law in an attempt to deport the Rochdale rape gang leader Shabir Ahmed. Shabana Mahmood is expected to announce plans to close a legal loophole that currently prevents his removal from the UK, despite him being stripped of his British citizenship. Now, this comes after Shabir Ahmed was released from prison, of course, earlier this month after serving just 14 years for rape and sexual offences against children as young as 12. Well, I'm joined in the studio by GBNews' political editor, Chris Hope. And Chris, thank you for holding the fort on Friday. You did a magnificent job.
Yeah, it's just talking about the murder of Anne Widdecombe is such a shock. I mean, and it remained with me all weekend. It just is an absolute moment in our politics. And the fury of Reform UK, people people who have been very upset by this, and they've been, well, you know, it's now a terror investigation, so we should leave it there. But it is very febrile out there, Martin.
It certainly is. Shabana Mahmood, she is announcing in the comments today something we've known about for a week, let's be frank. Plans to change the law to allow Shabir Ahmed, the rape gang paedophile, to be deported back to Pakistan. Here's my basic question. Will this have any teeth whatsoever? I mean, will it?
It's baby teeth, to use your analogy. So it's the beginning of an attempt to deal with this problem. So what's happening is the government is going to amend the 1971 Immigration Act, which stopped anyone from Commonwealth countries arriving here before 1973 being sent back from the country where they started their journey. We were told previously that this couldn't be changed for two reasons. You couldn't, well, Michael Ellis told us this, you couldn't just go back and rewrite someone's rights 4 decades, 5 decades later.
Yes.
Equally, we were told that it would damage the right of Windrush generations to be here. We thought that, I smelt a rat about that excuse straight away and called it out on air at GB News. But I think what we're looking at here is a first step in making this change. So this will give the power to deport people arriving here before 1973 from Commonwealth countries. That means that Shabir Ahmed will be caught by that, the Rothschild grooming gang's leader. That's how that will play out. The next step is making Pakistan take him back. There was a meeting last week with the Pakistani High Commissioner and the Foreign Office. That's the first step. After that, we might withdraw fast-track visas or even visas altogether. Stop giving out visas to Pakistan altogether till you take him back. The possible aid money can also be restricted, but we're not clear on that. Certainly, the visas is certainly a path we might go down. The third way forward is a third country. So he's sent to a third country, but forced to leave the UK. For me, it's becoming the first test, I think, of Andy Burnham's spine as Prime Minister. He takes over next Monday.
Let's see if this has any teeth whatsoever. Thank you very much, Chris. Let's now speak with the former Conservative MP and the Solicitor General. That's Robert Court. Robert, always a pleasure to have your company. Let's be frank, we've known about this for a week. The kite has already been flown. It's been picked apart by former Attorney Generals who said there's no chance this can be applied retrospectively without the full support of the current Attorney General, Lord Hermer. Do you think we'll get more today than just performative fang-bearing from the from the Home Secretary? Let's be absolutely frank. Are you confident that Shabir Ahmed will get deported?
Well, you're absolutely right that there is a real danger here that what we see is a performative outrage from the government without doing the really hard, difficult, technical legal work that's required to make it actually happen. It's certainly the case that this isn't a straightforward legal case. There are a number of things that have to be dealt with, as Chris has rightly just explained to you a moment ago. But those things can all be done. It's simply a matter of ensuring that the political will is there to ride through any difficulty, and that the serious legal work is done to ensure that it is done so in a way that has real teeth. So there are a number of things that can be done from the UK side. What is much trickier is the diplomatic work. It's one thing for this vile individual to be expelled from the UK. It's another to compel Pakistan or another country to take him.
And so that brings us to the next stage, the political will. Let's be frank, balls to actually make this happen. Enough of the hot air, enough of the threats. Do you think we have a Prime Minister in waiting, Andy Burnham, who will go a stage further than Keir Starmer and say, listen, Pakistan, take him back or else? Because I mean, look, we haven't seen any true analysis yet of what Andy Burnham stands for. It's just I find that astonishing. This guy's going to be anointed, coronated, wafted in as Prime Minister without any analysis of his policies. Do you think this man here, the so-called King of the North, is suddenly going to do something that no Labour leader before has done and get tough on Pakistan?
Well, you put your finger on the real trouble that we have with this extraordinary political scenario, which is the coronation of Andy Burnham, who wasn't an MP a matter of a few months ago, a few weeks ago even, who wasn't even elected on the basis of Keir Starmer's 2024 manifesto. This extraordinary example where he will be dropped into the Commons and then will be treated like a saviour by Labour MPs who have no incentive whatsoever to put him under any scrutiny. Indeed, today they have a bizarre hustings in which he is the only candidate, and they're allowed to ask him, about 50 of them will get to ask him a question. None of them will want to put him in any real difficulty because they will be hoping they get jobs from him in the upcoming reshuffle. So this extraordinary case where someone is coming in, and none of us, not me, not you, I doubt even Andy Burnham and his team really know what it is that he's going to be doing. And I think the real thing that is concerning here is the people who are backing Andy Burnham, because those who are his backers, those who are welcoming him so warmly back into Parliament, are the people for whom the sort of tough political action that is required, particularly on immigration, are the very last people who are likely to welcome that and to actually do what needs to be done. So it's very difficult to know, but the past doesn't give us much grounds for hope.
OK, thank you very much there. The former Tory MP and Solicitor General Robert Courts. Always a pleasure, and thank you to you, Chris Hope, as ever. And as we say, Shabana Mahmood's set to deliver that statement to the Commons at around about 4:45. Will it have any punch? Will it be yet more political pantomime? We'll be inside the big top in the House of Commons for that statement as it comes live. Still to come, Argentina's foreign minister has blasted the UK's so-called illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands, with the topic now a political football. Should Britain show the Argentines the red card? And also next, Reform UK has claimed Andy Burnham is plotting a £38 billion tax raid. That's the equivalent of £3,450 for every British family. Could they be right about the incoming Prime Minister? Could this be high tax, high spend, 1970s socialism? That's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, debate time is 3:26 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, breaking news for you. That man, Donald Trump, he's announced on Truth Social that the Strait of Hormuz once again is open. The US president said this, and said the US will be a guardian, he says, of the Hormuz Strait. So there we go. It's open once again. It's closed. It's reopened. Donald Trump has announced on Truth Social the Strait of Hormuz is open. The US president said the US will be a guardian of the Hormuz Strait. More on that as we get it in. Now, moving on. Is Andy Burnham planning a tax raid on the wealthy? Well, according to new analysis published today by Reform UK, the Prime Minister-to-be is expected to raise £38 billion to help fund a spending spree in public office. Now, the report claims introducing tax rises not set out in Labour's 2024 manifesto will pile pressure on Mr Burnham to call an early general election. Well, let's now speak with the economist, Vicky Price. Vicky, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Reform UK, they've done some delving. They're claiming taxes on death, on homes, on land, on savings, on parking, and even your weekend away. This, of course, is a tourist tax, could amount to £38 billion. And this, of course, is all because they have promised that they won't meddle with the big taxes, income tax, national insurance. Are you expecting a raft of so-called stealth taxes to try and make up the missing billions?
I think we're probably going to see a series of taxes coming. I mean, remember, of course, that the main problems that Andy Burnham is going to have looking at the fiscal situation of the UK is that welfare costs are rising, and so are, of course, within all that, pension incomes are also rising because of the state pension triple lock. So there may well be some changes that he needs to make there. And those will take quite some time to have an effect. So in the short term, he may well need to raise taxes. And I think that's what most people expect. But before we get into any of the detail, it is quite interesting to say that we may have a budget in September or October, which is going to be also at the same time a spending review. So there are going to be some quite substantial changes. So it is quite right to look at some of those impacts that there may be, if indeed he's looking to settle the fiscal side until the next election. And that will require, I'm afraid, quite likely tax increases.
And we are hearing whiffs. If you delve into Andy Burnham's political past, he's been a big fan, for example, of an extra 10% on death duty to help pay for social care for the neediest, as he calls them, for years. He's also advocated increasing capital gains tax to make it equitable with your base tax rate. These are things he's been saying for years, but the big problem, Vicky Price, is we haven't got a clue what he actually stands for, because there's been no chance whatsoever to cross-examine him. He's been anointed almost in private.
Well, you're absolutely right. And of course, he has said various things before. And I think some of those assumptions are because of what he said in various speeches over the last few years. And you can see his concerns. The main thing would be to get more devolution there. Now, of course, devolution requires also the various regions, particularly the ones which are run by mayors, to be able to raise some money themselves. And the tourist tax you talked about, we already have one, which has been introduced in terms of foreigners coming in to the country and paying some to stay in various hotels. We've also got an extra tax now on students who are coming in, international students. So you could easily see that expanded, because some sort of revenue needs to come into those areas that are going to be more devolved, if you like, in terms of being able to make their own decisions on expenditure. They're going to need to raise some taxes as well. How far he's going to go, that's a big question mark. But also the whole reorganization. You talked about houses and how those might be taxed, particularly at death. Yes, indeed. I think there is a lot going on right now. People looking at whether the mansion tax that's already been announced could be extended, or rather start at a lower base. So that's another thing. The care one you mentioned, really interesting, because of course there have been a number of attempts to see how one can reduce the burden on normal people, on the average person, in terms of taking care of older people who have dementia in particular, who need extra support. Loads of attempts to put a sort of ceiling on how much you may be asked to pay have not worked anywhere. So people still have to sell their homes and use whatever they would perhaps have left to their kids to fund that. Maybe a social care levy additionally might answer that problem. But there will, I think, be some redistribution that takes place. Whether the overall tax for working people will be going up, that's an interesting one, because we've got, of course, the freezing of thresholds. There is some suggestion that those thresholds may be moved up a little bit, because of course what he will want is people to feel a little bit happier and have a bit more money in their pockets. So he wants to reduce the cost of living crisis we're all going through. So he may do little things like that, but I think we're not going to hear much of those details for another couple of months.
Well, when the detail comes out, I'm sure the devil will be in it. You remember back in 2017, the dementia tax, hiking taxes on those in the end of their life by Theresa May almost let Jeremy Corbyn into power. This sounds to me like a dementia tax from the same party that opposed it 10 years ago. Funny old world. Let's wait for the details to come out. In the meantime, thank you for your expertise, as ever, The Economist, Vicky Price. Thank you. Now, still to come, Argentina's foreign minister has blasted the UK's so-called illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands. With the topic, now a political football ahead of the semi-final clash on Wednesday. Is it time for Britain to show the Argentines once and for all the red card? But first, here's your latest news headlines with the wonderful Lewis Mackenzie.
Good afternoon. Your half-past headlines from the GB newsroom. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old man in custody has since been re-arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. The government has announced that it's using new powers to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a written letter, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood told Parliament the UK has identified activity linked to the IRGC involving threats to life and intimidation on UK soil. Well, the Home Secretary also will set out the legal steps she will take to deport Shabir Ahmed, the freed ringleader of a Rochdale grooming gang. 12 people have been arrested as a part of an investigation by counter-terrorism policing in London. The investigation, which is extreme right-wing terror-related, is connected to a suspected threat directed towards an Islamic event held in Suffolk over the weekend. And finally, Jurassic Park star Sam Neill has died at the age of 78. No cause of death has been given, but Neill recently revealed he was cancer-free after being diagnosed with blood cancer in 2022. Well, those are your headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good afternoon. Yes, it is time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine, warm summer's evening for most. Still quite breezy across the south and the east, where it is also still quite chilly on the east coast. Under high pressure, the wind's coming in from the sea. There's also low pressure to the south and a bit more cloud spreading in across the Channel Isles. May just provide one or two showers. A small chance of a flash of lightning or a rumble of thunder. But if you're after any rain, well, I don't think we're going to see much of that. Most places staying dry and staying clear. The cloud will seep back in across these eastern areas as we go through the night. But further west, it stays clear. A reasonably comfortable night, certainly across northern Britain. Temperature in rural spots down into single figures, so not as hot as many nights have been so far through this summer, but still pretty warm across the south. Another very warm, sunny day to come for most tomorrow. Cracking day in western Scotland. The east coast will be plagued by that har, certainly initially. Lots of sunshine to come for Northern Ireland on Tuesday, northwest England, but northeast England down across the Midlands, even into East Wales. Some of this cloud may well have spread in by first thing tomorrow morning, making for a bit of a grey start here. Might even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle, but that should fizzle quickly. The cloud will tend to gradually melt away. Some of the coasts may stay a little misty, and certainly on that east coast it will be rather fresh with this breeze, but generally the wind's lighter than today, certainly across the south and lots of sunshine to come. A little hotter again on Tuesday, particularly over the Midlands, the southeast, 31, 32. It will be cooler on those North Sea coasts, more likely to be in the high teens. Not a great deal of change through Tuesday evening, keeping our eyes down across France, where there's always the possibility of thunderstorms drifting up. That'll be a continued chance through the rest of this week, but if you're after rain, no real sign of it. Lots more sunshine to come over the next few days.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 16 and 15 in Uxbridge is closed. The A428 is closed after the A1. The A264 westbound entry is closed after the M23 in Pease Pottage. In Scotland, the A977 is closed in both directions between the Kilbargie roundabout and Ferrygate due to planned roadworks. Across Wales, the A55 both directions at Britannia Bridge has a 30 miles per hour speed limit due to high winds until further notice. And on the trains, Gatwick Express and Southern services are facing major disruption on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 3:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Argentina's foreign minister has described the Falkland Islanders as artificially implanted in a new essay, calling on Britain to hand the territory over. Pablo Cuerno has claimed that in 2013 referendum held on the archipelago was illegitimate, despite Islanders overwhelmingly choosing to remain British. Now, this comes, of course, after the shameful Gary Lineker reignited the heated ownership debate the other day by acknowledging their Argentine name, the Malvinas. Let's now speak with the former Royal Navy officer, Steve Jeremy. Steve, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. May I say thank you for your service, sir. How does it make you feel seeing this being dragged up like this and being used as a political football?
Well, it's a bit disappointing, Martin, and thank you for inviting me on, not least having served there in 1982 in HMS Invincible. I'm not entirely surprised because the Argentinians' currently political administration is lowest in the polls that they've been for some time. But to say that the referendum was illegitimate is not entirely surprising either, because at no stage have the Argentinians ever accepted international adjudication. I think that's largely speaking because they know that it won't go their way. But I'm not entirely surprised that they've come up with this. It does worry me, though, Martin, because of the state of the British defence. I mean, at the moment, we have very few deployable destroyers and frigates. And to give you a sense of it, when we were down there, I was in HMS Invincible, but I would guess that we deployed over 20 or so frigates and destroyers. At the moment, we have in the country between 11 or 12 or something like that, and quite what state they are in is an open question. So we are in a very, very different situation now to we were then. And to me, this is about getting defence strategy right, making sure that we as a nation are able to defend our overseas territories, to defend our own seas and waters, rather than invest in lots of interventions abroad which are not really in our interest and tend to be offensive operations, Martin.
And I wonder, Steve, if the Argentine Foreign Minister Pablo Cuerno has done his history, because the fact of the matter is it was 51 years after the Falklands were established as a British territory that Argentina even became a country. They weren't a country before Britain arrived on the Falkland Islands. And the fact of the matter is, this is political rabble-rousing ahead of a football match. It brings up old rivalries. I think that's in poor taste for fan safety. But I especially think, and may I ask you for your expertise, Steve, it's especially distasteful in terms of dishonouring the memories of the deceased. 255 British service people lost their lives there, as did 3 civilians, as did 649 Argentinians. Is this type of politicking, in your mind, utterly disrespectful?
I think it is disrespectful, Martin, but it's also political. So I think we've got to understand, as we don't often do, I'm afraid to say. We've got to understand the context in which the Argentine discussions are being had. It is low. There are low popularity ratings for their government at the moment, and this is a classic way of improving those popularity ratings. I mean, I think what's needed here is diplomacy, active diplomacy, and we should make clear that we will offer to adjudicate. But let's be clear, of those of those Falkland Islanders, they've been there for 9 generations, Martin. And I think, and I'm just reading from something I had a quick look at, the referendum in 2013, 99.8% voted to stay British. And if you've ever been down there, they're incredibly loyal and patriotic. So, the moral case doesn't stack up and the legal case doesn't stack up, but we just do need to make sure that we've got the defence forces to make sure that there's sufficient deterrent to know that the Argentinians know that this is not a plausible thing to do. And we're not there at the moment. There's a lot more work to do on our defence.
And Steve, there's something else we can do. Knock Argentina out of the World Cup, lads. That's what we need to do, to stuff a sausage in their gobs. It's like, pipe down, lads. Let's knock Argentina out of the World Cup on Wednesday night. Let's make sure things get messy, turf them out of the cup, show them who's boss. Let's do that, eh, Steve?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, Martin. Well, I was felt disappointed for Norway, actually, as I'm friendly with Norwegians, and I thought it was a very nicely spirited match as well. And the atmosphere between the fans was fantastic, it seemed to me. But yeah, that would be a very good way of making our point. That said, this is not an easy game against Argentina, especially with Messi on board. Not an easy game.
That is true, but I hope this actually backfires on Pablo Cuerno. I hope the England players hear this and understand this. There's more at stake than just football. Thank you very much for your time and your service, former Royal Navy officer Steve Jermy. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Mine, there you go. Thank you. Time now for the Great British Giveaway, not the Falklands. It's your chance to win £60,000 in tax-free moolah, plus a real gold bar worth over £5,000. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details.
We're celebrating a golden summer, as you could win a totally tax-free £60,000 in cash to spend on anything you like. Imagine all of the fun you could have this year with that. You could spend it on treats, save it for a rainy day, or give you the chance to chill out and relax on the perfect getaway. Plus, we're going to give you a £5,000 gold bar that you could keep, trade, or gift to a loved one and secure their financial future. You really could be enjoying gold and £60,000 cash in our golden summer celebration.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up next, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer has today announced Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps will finally be designated a threat to national security, with members facing lifetime in prison as a maximum penalty. We'll find out what all of that means. What took them so long at long last. Meanwhile, in search of some holiday sun, and here is the forecast of some of your top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The heatwave continues across much of Europe. Central and southern parts of France in particular could see temperatures in the low to mid-40s. Along with the high temperatures, lots of dry, sunny weather to continue across many areas, though the humidity could be enough to spark off some thunderstorms across northern parts of Italy, Austria, Slovenia, potentially parts of Croatia as well. The sunshine continues this week alongside the hot temperatures, widely in the high 30s to low 40s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The completion of the challenge, the Princess of Wales was met by her family, including the Prince of Wales and her 3 children.
Lovely. All right, let's talk to former Royal Butler, Grant Harold. Grant, honestly, that little video there just seemed to say it all to me, because it was clearly all just off the cuff, not a prepared speech. She just came across as someone who really cares about what she does.
She does, and I mean, she's remarkable because, as you said, it was just suddenly announced last night that she'd done this. And not that I'm a huge expert in this, but it's quite a challenge. I actually know somebody that did it recently. I mean, I think you've got to walk about 23, 24 miles. You're climbing about up to, is it 9,000 feet? You're travelling over 500 miles. It's 3 highest peaks in the UK, Scotland, England, and Wales. I mean, it's a remarkable achievement.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In his 23 years of service, Alan was deployed to a number of conflicts, including the Gulf War. He met his wife Tracy Ann when he returned to civilian life, and Alan is proud of his time in the forces.
The actual Gulf War, it was during this Scud missile sort of crisis, if you like, and I found that quite worrying because it was so random. If somebody points a rifle at you and intends to kill you, that's one thing. But these missiles were just fired into nowhere. One of the camps got hit. A lot of US servicemen got killed. And RAF regiment fellas went in to help. And the effects of war are clearly not nice. But if it was done for the right reasons, it had to be done.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
No, Cameron, so it's the first monarch ever to do this, then, isn't it? What's your take on what we've seen in the data here?
Well, Patrick, for GB News audiences, I spent 5 hours in financial briefings with all of these documents, so you don't have to go through them all, and we've assimilated them with my producer, Tom, this afternoon and evening for you. As you said, Patrick, at the start of your piece there, I think a lot of our audience are probably going to be wondering why £370 million, roughly, of their money is being spent on resurfacing a building, Buckingham Palace, which no monarch is unlikely to ever live in ever again. The money that the king surrenders the profits of from the Crown Estates to the Treasury in exchange for a percentage to fund the official duties, that percentage for almost a decade has been much higher.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has finally been labelled a threat to Britain's national security. Keir Starmer says members could face life sentences under a crackdown on foreign state proxies. Now, the move is aimed at Iran-backed groups recruiting criminals to target the Jewish community. Let's now speak with the counter-terrorism and Iran expert, Roger Macmillan. Roger, a pleasure to have your company. What took them so long?
A very good question. I'm not going to argue about that right now. I'm just delighted that finally action after many, many years has been taken to put this horrific organisation back out of touch. And they're now stopping this. This is designated as an organisation which sponsors terrorism, which sponsors this malign activity here on our shores in the UK. And also, don't forget, the organisation which is called Harakat al-Yamin al-Shab al-Islamiyya is also being prescribed as a terrorist organisation, and they're the ones who conducted those ghastly attacks against the Jewish community directly back in March and April of this year.
And that's the point, Roger. It's incredible to think that a state-sponsored and state-funded organisation is on British soil, and indeed American soil, other places, directly being provocative. And some would say this move is long, long overdue.
It is long overdue, and it's not just in the UK. You're absolutely right. It's across the States, it's across Europe. All of these entities are going to put fear into not just the Jewish communities, but the Persian diaspora and others. I mean, you've heard the death threats against even President Trump just in the last few days. So these entities get everywhere. And it's really important to see this has now finally been taken action. And so quickly, just coming 3 or 4 days, 5 days after the national security state threats legislation achieved royal assent. The Home Office have taken this action today, and also, as I understand, Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, has just called in the Iranian charge d'affaires to hold them to task on all of this. Again, directly because of the Hayy and IRGC threats in the UK.
Roger, are you expecting the Iranian regime to take this peacefully, to take it with grace? That was a rhetorical question. Or are you expecting them actually to perhaps throw their toys out the pram about it?
I think they've already thrown out the toys out of the pram. The last few days in Iran has seen an escalation, not just in the attacks from the Iranians, but also the attacks back again, targeting military and infrastructure assets in Iran as we speak. So this is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. This is the right time to have done it, albeit a bit too late, but there's no going back now. I mean, this is also now a case where we can now in the UK apply the maximum pressure on this regime to give up their brutal and terrorist aims.
And Roger, finally, we just heard in this past hour that Donald Trump is now saying the Strait of Hormuz is open again. Roger, have you ever known a war to end so many times? Are you confident this is finally it?
No, I'm sorry. This is yet more of the rhetoric. One side will say it's closed, one side said it's open, and then flips it around. We are now really in a state where we're going to see the Iranians using their nuclear button, which is in fact the Strait of Hormuz. And we're going to see them use that to their advantage when they perceive that they're not getting exactly what they want out of the MOU. So whether they don't get the money, whether they get the money or not, they're going to use that. And of course, that is going to mean that there's a shut, another vessel is going to be hit, the Americans will respond, and the Iranians respond until they think, right, how can we get over this? The only way we're going to get over this impasse is with complete regime change.
OK, Roger McMillan, thank you. Superb guest there, counter-terrorism and Iran expert joining us live from Tel Aviv. Roger McMillan, thank you very, very much indeed. Now, coming up, counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death, the suspects of murder of the former politician, the late, the great Anne Widdecombe, and also the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will be making a statement on this during the next hour. The Home Secretary set to address the House of Commons, address the nation on the update that the investigation into the death of Anne Widdecombe is now being led by counter-terrorism police, leading that incredible breakthrough. That's next here on GB News, but first, here is your weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Yes, it is time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine, warm summer's evening for most. Still quite breezy across the south and the east, where it is also still quite chilly on the east coast. Under high pressure, the wind's coming in from the sea. There's also low pressure to the south and a bit more cloud spreading in across the Channel Islands. May just provide 1 or 2 showers. A small chance of a flash of lightning or a rumble of thunder. But if you're after any rain, well, I don't think we're going to see much of that. Most places staying dry and staying clear. The cloud will seep back in across these eastern areas as we go through the night. But further west, it stays clear. A reasonably comfortable night, certainly across northern Britain. Temperatures in rural spots down into single figures, so not as hot as many nights have been so far through this summer, but still pretty warm across the south. Another very warm sunny day to come for most tomorrow. Cracking day in western Scotland. The east coast will be plagued by that ha, certainly initially. Lots of sunshine to come for Northern Ireland on Tuesday, northwest England, but northeast England down across the Midlands, even into East Wales. Some of this cloud may well have spread in by first thing tomorrow morning, making for a bit of a grey start here. Might even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle, but that should fizzle quickly. The cloud will tend to gradually melt away. Some of the coasts may stay a little misty, and certainly on that east coast it will be rather fresh with this breeze, but generally the wind's lighter than today, certainly across the south, and lots of sunshine to come. A little hotter again on Tuesday, particularly over the Midlands, the southeast, 31, 32. It will be cooler on those North Sea coasts, more likely to be in the high teens. Not a great deal of change through Tuesday evening, keeping our eyes down across France, where there's always the possibility of thunderstorms drifting up. That'll be a continued chance through the rest of this week, but if you're after rain, no real sign of it. Lots more sunshine to come over the next few days.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 16 and 15 in Uxbridge is closed. The A419 is closed after the A4311. The A19 northbound is closed after the A182. North of the border, the A75 eastbound exit slip at Gretna is closed due to roadworks. Across Wales, the A5 at Menai Bridge is now open both directions following a closure. And on the trains, Gatwick Express and Southern services are facing major disruption on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's a great British giveaway Golden Summer Celebration. Your chance to win 2 fantastic prizes. There's an incredible £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also get your hands on a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you and happy Monday. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. A cracking show awaits. And here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death, the suspected murder of the former politician Anne Widdecombe after they announced that new information and evidence had come to light. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, will be making a statement on this very topic. You see their live pictures from the House of Commons. Shabana Mahmood expected to speak in around about 30 to 40 minutes' time during the show, and we're bringing you that, of course, live from the Commons as it happens. And also today in Parliament, the law could be changed, will be changed, we hear, so that the paedophile, the Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed could finally be deported. But here's the question. Will Pakistan listen and take back the Rochdale rape gang monster? Or once again, is it yet more performative hot air? We'll have full analysis.
Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart.
And Reform UK has today claimed that Andy Burnham is plotting a £38 billion tax raid. That's the equivalent of £3,450 for every family. But taxes on death, taxes on homes, on land and savings. Are we witnessing a 1970s-style war on wealth? I'll be joined in the studio by Reform UK's Robert Jenrick. And ahead of Wednesday's World Cup semi-final clash with Argentina, tensions between Argentina and England have reached fever pitch. Argentina's foreign minister blasted the UK's so-called illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands with the topic, now a political football. Should Britain show the Argentines the red card? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. For you, those of you out there, like myself, still coming to terms with the suspected murder of Anne Widdecombe, the next hour should be unmissable. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is set to address the Commons to try and set the record straight. Because isn't it funny how initially police in Devon and Cornwall said there is no links to terrorism, no suggestion this is a politically motivated attack. And now they've completely changed their tune. And in fact, counter-terror police are now leading the investigation into the tragic death, the suspected murder of Anne Widdecombe. How come it was, and then it wasn't, and now it is again? We should get some clarity, we hope, some much-needed clarity from Shabana Mahmood in the next hour. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Don't go anywhere. If you want to get involved in the show, please do so by going to gbnews.com/you'll-say or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much, Martin. Good afternoon. 3 minutes past 4. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old man in custody has since been rearrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. This comes as the suspect is believed to have driven almost 300 miles to her home in Devon on the day of her death. Devon and Cornwall police confirmed they are not currently looking for any other suspects. Miss Widdecombe was found dead at her home on Thursday. Police believe she was killed nearly 24 hours earlier, around midday. Speaker of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, reflected on his fond memories of Anne in the Commons earlier.
For now, we are thinking of Anne. But just say on a personal level, Casa Pizza in Lambeth, in Kennington, is where I spent a lot of time in the evening sharing a pizza with the one and only Anne Widdecombe. She was a friend in many ways. Politically, we may not agree, but she was, without doubt, a courageous, principled politician, and all of her flaws with family and her friends.
The government has announced that it's using new powers to proscribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a written letter, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, told Parliament the UK has identified activity linked to the IRGC involving threats to life and intimidation on UK soil. In the written Parliament letter, she set out how support for the IRGC, from expressing a positive opinion to assisting them, will now be an offence punishable by up to 14 years in prison. The government will today set out the legal steps it will take to deport the freed ringleader of a Rochdale grooming gang. Shabir Ahmed was jailed for 22 years in 2012 for multiple counts of child sexual offences, including rape. He was released from prison on licence earlier this month. Calls have been mounting across the political spectrum for the deportation of Ahmed, who was stripped of his British citizenship following his conviction, leaving him with only Pakistani nationality. 12 people have been arrested as a part of an investigation by counter-terrorism policing in London. The investigation, which is extreme right-wing terror-related, is connected to a suspected threat directed towards an Islamic event held in Suffolk over the weekend. Due to the concerns over the possible threat, advice was provided via Suffolk Police to the organisers of the event to close early. Argentina's foreign minister called Falkland Islanders an artificially implanted population. He also said the 2013 referendum held on the island, which locals voted 99.8% to remain British, was illegitimate and called for negotiations over the Falklands' future. Number 10 have denied the claim, saying the Falkland Islands are British with their right to determine their own future. The right to self-determination is paramount. The row was reignited by the Argentine football team, who were filmed singing they would win the World Cup for Las Malvinas. England play Argentina on Wednesday night for a place in the final. And finally, Jurassic Park star Sam Neill has died at the age of 78. The Northern Ireland-born New Zealand actor was best known for his leading roles in the dinosaur blockbuster films The Piano and Peaky Blinders. He appeared in more than 50 films over his distinguished career. No cause of death has been given, but Neill recently revealed he was cancer-free after being diagnosed with blood cancer in 2022. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. Let's have a look at your markets.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Well, here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.34 and 1.17 euros. The price of gold is at £3,001 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 100. Oh no, pardon me, that's wrong. The FTSE 100 is at 10,505 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Lewis. Top story this hour, of course. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death, the suspected murder of Anne Widdecombe, after new information and evidence came to light. A 28-year-old British man who was originally arrested on Saturday has now been re-arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. Now, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood said earlier on that the police are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack, and she also plans to update the House of Commons later on this afternoon. Let's get that down to GB News' home and security editor Mark White, who's down there for us in Devon, close by the property of Anne Widdecombe. Mark, Shabana Mahmood set to address the Commons in around about half an hour's time, we believe, and an extraordinary intervention from her earlier on today. We were told initially there was nothing to see here, no link to terrorism, no link to a political motivation, and suddenly there is. What's going on, Mark?
Well, you used to have a situation with the police in these complex inquiries who would say, you know, we are ruling nothing in and nothing out because they knew that an inquiry like this could take any manner of directions as they gather more information. But it seems these days you have the police very anxious to rule out any kind of terror link to begin with, clearly with an eye to how the wider population is perceiving this because of concerns that they might have about unrest and alike. And so I can see why perhaps they've adopted this new approach of saying, you know, no evidence to point to terrorism. But the trouble is, when further down the line evidence does emerge, and we have a dramatic afternoon like we've had today with counter-terrorism police announced by the Home Secretary as having taken over the lead of this investigation because new lines of inquiry have come out, then you've got those who were suspicious perhaps of the motivations of the authorities in the first place now saying, look, we told you so. Along. So they're in a kind of no-win situation, but I do think perhaps if the police just went back to the old policy that seemed to work pretty well, where they said if they genuinely didn't know, look, we can't rule anything in or out at this stage, they might be better aided.
And, you know, what people will automatically say that this is the police taking a position. They didn't need to say there are no links to anything. They could say, at this point, we're keeping an open mind about all routes of inquiry, the boring stuff that they used to do for years and years and years, and that's now set this ball in motion. Of course, this is now a live case, so to be careful, mainly me, talk to myself there. They put the perception out that they've changed their mind, and they were trying to dampen down that first line of potential inquiry. It makes no sense.
Well, add to that, of course, the way in which Nigel Farage and others who'd suggested there might have been more to Anne Widdecombe's murder were jumped upon by many who accused him of being irresponsible, and now it looks with what we know to have actually been quite prescient, what Nigel Farage was suggesting at the time. So, yeah, listen, as I said, I can see why the police have adopted the approach they have. They have been concerned about the potential reaction in the wider public and the potential for unrest at these moments. But in singling out terrorism or political motivation to say no evidence, they're leading the public down a specific path. As I said before, we don't get them coming out and saying, for instance, no evidence to suggest this was a burglary gone wrong, So it's specific issues around terrorism or political motivation that they feel they have to get out there in advance of it to try perhaps concerns within the community. But the difficulty is when evidence comes to light, as it clearly has in this case, multiple strands of evidence according to the Home Secretary and to the head of Counter-Terror Command, then it does leave them in a position to be criticised by those that felt there was more to the story all along. In terms of the ongoing investigation, Martin, we've got this 28-year-old man still in custody. We believe he's in Exeter and now being interviewed not by Devon and Cornwall police anymore, but by counter-terrorism detectives. They have new powers, or more enhanced powers, that those carrying out a general murder inquiry would have. For instance, the maximum anyone can be held for in a general murder inquiry is 4 days. Now, of course, under enhanced terrorism legislation, they can be held for up to 2 weeks before there is either a decision to release or charge that individual. And that's just because of the complex nature, of course, of counter-terrorism investigations, where they have to delve into computers and mobile phones, the background of an individual, the social media history, all of these different strands. And it may indeed be some of those aspects that the police bring forward, these new lines of inquiry that have now convinced them that the death of Anne Widdecombe was as a result of a terrorist act.
Thank you very much, Mark White, for joining us. I know you've been down there since breakfast. I appreciate your time and your effort you put in today. Thank you very much, GBNews' Homeland Security Editor, Mark White. I want to get some reaction from the studio, Chris Hope, before we move on to our next story. I still keep expecting Anne Widdecombe to pop out of her driveway with a tray of tea and biscuits, because that's what she would have done. I'm afraid, sadly, that's not going to happen now. But let's look ahead now. Around about half an hour's time, we're expecting Shabana Mahmood to address the House of Commons. We could get another revelation. This case is now moving very quickly, and I want to ask you for your confusion. A huge political row has broken out. Was it terrorism? Was it politically motivated? We still don't know. But the police took the position that it wasn't, and that fueled a huge social media row between Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Zia Yousaf, other Reform UK MPs and journalists who were saying Farage is trying to make this political. It's disgraceful. But now it is being linked to terrorism. It's an unholy mess.
Yeah, Martin, I think it was. I was watching live presenting your show on Friday with that press conference, and they said that there's nothing they've seen to suggest it was terrorism or politically motivated. They didn't rule it out, and that was reported by other people saying they rule out those two areas because people were trying to tip it into a political story straight away. But clearly they didn't know enough, and they shouldn't have gone towards that at that early stage, the police, if you look back on that now, because they weren't clear what they had. They released the 26-year-old local man van and then arrested another individual on very late Saturday night, 300 miles away, up in Yorkshire. So clearly they got that wrong, and they've got to try and maintain the trust in the police. If they start ruling out things, we're not quite entirely sure what Nigel Farage knew behind the scenes. He was speculating nearby when he was laying flowers yesterday, wasn't he, about what he thought may have happened. And he may be being told more than we're being told. He's spoken to the Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police twice. We haven't had that opportunity, so we don't know what he's been hearing. But the police risk losing faith in their investigation by ruling out motives so soon, I think, or allowing that to get carried away with itself, being reported online in that way. They have got themselves in quite a mess here.
The notion that a man would just spontaneously get in his car in Rotherham, 267 miles away, with a weapon and drive all the way to Devon, and there not being some kind of motivation, it is a stretch of the imagination. But look, more information will come out, and Shabana Mahmood, as I say, will address the Commons in around about 25 minutes' time. We will, of course, live for that. And that same woman, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is also preparing today to change the law in an attempt to deport the Rochdale rape gang leader, Shabir Ahmed. Shabana Mahmood is expected to announce plans to close a legal loophole that currently prevents his removal from the UK, despite him being stripped of his British citizenship. Now, this comes after Shabir Ahmed was released from prison earlier this month after serving just 14 years for the rape and sexual offences against children aged as young as 12. Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor Chris Hope and also the Labour councillor Stuart Fawcett. Stuart, may I first come to you? I think everybody, irrespective of their political stripes, wants this maggot deporting out of Britain. He has no place being in the country, and yet the rules are such that we are unable at present to deport him. Now, we heard a week ago Shabana Mahmood is hoping, planning, proposing to change this law, but that will take the approval of Lord Hermer, Labour's Attorney General. Are you confident that we'll get an announcement today that's more than just hot air?
Whether that will be announced today, I can't tell you, but I think there's a clear direction from the Home Secretary to enact the deportation of Shabir Ahmed. I mean, it's very clear that he no longer has British citizenship, and that wasn't something that was entirely out of his control, actually. So there's something here where the parties signal very clearly about how they feel about the offences that he's committed. It is very clear, and that he should be deported in line with other deportations of this nature. The current mechanism is a very bizarre...
But there's plenty of rape gang monsters who haven't been
deported
either.
Sure, I think in his particular circumstances, because he came here as a Commonwealth citizen at a certain time, there's a particular piece of legislation that is being particularly troublesome to deport him. If that was not currently adhered to by a change in legislation, it would enable his deportation. And my outlook is that the Home Secretary would want to enact changes to enable that to be. Now, whether there's any consent or conversation with the Pakistani government is another question, but the simple fact is we don't need to seek the consent of the Pakistani government to deport one of their citizens. At the moment, the challenge is actually within our control because it's British legislation that needs changing to achieve it.
So there's quite a few hurdles to clear here before...
Well, mainly just one.
Well, no, there's more than one. Let's start with the first one. Shabana Mahmood needs the support of Lord Hermer. Will she get it? That remains to be seen. Then it could be the subject to a legal challenge from lawyers who say, hang on a minute, you can't retrospectively change law in Britain without there being serious implications and knock-ons. It could still yet be subjected to woke judges trying to derail it. And then perhaps the biggest hurdle is the Pakistani government. They could just say, not taking him back, get stuffed.
So
then what?
I think there's three things to say there, which is that the Attorney General today has clearly signified his support for the change in the prescription to certain groups that are a clear and present threat to the United Kingdom. Legislation is going through now to enact that. On the second element, it's British Parliament. We can change legislation if we want to. We have a majority to do that, and I believe Shabana Mahmood will make moves to enable to enact it. And on your third point, upon the consent of Pakistan, this is a Pakistani citizen. Britain can deport people. It has it within its power to do it. And I think what you're seeing now with the changes to the asylum and immigration legislation is the clear will to do that by seeing that we interpret laws different ways and have more sovereign power on how they're interpreted.
But they've already tried to negotiate in the past, for example, the reopening of flight paths between Islamabad and London. Next, they're demanding the release of political dissidents. I mean, they haven't played ball thus far. Well, they certainly got a book. May I say, the notion that a Labour government would get tough on Pakistan raises all sorts of questions about the fact, let's face it, historically, the Labour Party has turned a blind eye to the rape gang scandal across great parts of Britain, perpetrated by the Pakistani Muslim community. Are they suddenly going to grow a pair and deal with Pakistan?
I disagree with you on the rape gangs issue when we had like the Casey review and the independent inquiry that's going on. So I don't think they've turned a blind eye at all. But when it comes to this particular case, I think it needs to be clear: the British government does not need to seek Pakistan's permission to deport one of its citizens. And I think with what you're seeing today in the change of legislation, that sovereign control of not just the implementation but the interpretation of legislation to enable it is now forthcoming.
Thank you very much. Chris, quick word from you. So we're expecting Shabana Mahmood to appear in about 20 minutes' time. This is the huge, huge acid test of the coronated Prime Minister, the mystery man from Manchester. We don't know anything about his policies. He promises to get tough on immigration 1 minute, and then we hear 80 backbench rebels might not allow it. He wants to water down the Boris Way plans. We don't know anything about Andy Burnham. Are you getting any indication that he will get tough on Pakistan, will get tough on immigration, and once again, would it be on the tightrope, trying to please everyone?
I feel completely in the dark about what Andy Burnham's plans are to be Prime Minister, and he's taking over in a week's time. I've never known anything like it. At least with the Conservatives, they had a dozen or so of these members' sessions filmed, publicly available to be watched by journalists. We can start filling in the blanks with what they would do as Prime Minister. We are not seeing this with Andy Burnham. It is a leap in the dark for the country. I've never known anything like it. We're trying to ask him questions. He won't speak to us. He speaks to the odd journalist on a radio station last week. We have tweets. A tweet you're referring to is him saying that the Home Secretary and Foreign Secretary should examine every single opportunity to deport this man, this Rochdale grooming gang leader, and that's why Shabana Mahmood is stepping up. Now, we were told this couldn't happen by the Labour government about 2 weeks ago because it would undermine protections for the Windrush generation. That has been, we're going to see from Shabana Mahmood later tonight, that has been overruled. But I think it's extraordinary. I've been number 10 today watching all of the platforms being put up for the world's press to film the arrival of Andy Burnham, the exit of Keir Starmer next Monday. We know so little, so we're filling in the blanks as best we can from the books he's written, the tweets, online, on Snapchat or Instagram, wherever it might be. It is utterly bizarre, but this is how we're doing our politics now. How the Tories, I just reflect, how the Tories be doing this, the left will be in uproar.
Yeah, they'll be saying, you know, it's totalitarian, what have you got to hide, it's autocratic.
And they'd be right, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, it's not quite totalitarian, but they'd be right to attack it.
All right, Chris Hope, thank you very much. And Stuart Fawcett, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to have your company, especially in the studio. Thank you very much, my friend. Now, still to come, counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death, the suspected tragic murder of the former politician, Adam Widdecombe. Former. After they announced... When you say the word former, Chris, it just, it's real. After they announced that new information and evidence had come to light, and the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, will be making a statement on this during today's show. We believe in about 15 or 20 minutes' time, new revelations could come out. We'll, of course, bring you that live. Don't go anywhere. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst.
It's time. Let's go live now to the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood's statement on Anne Widdecombe.
She was one of those rare politicians who was bigger than politics. There have been so many moving tributes in the last few days, reflecting her impact both within this place and beyond politics. But I think her outlook on life is best summed up by Anne herself. Sitting on Graham Norton's sofa, she said, and I quote, "We get one go this side of eternity, one go. Life is not a dress rehearsal. You take opportunities that you like and you go for it." Anne took her opportunities. She was the proud MP for Maidstone for 23 years, a champion of her constituents. She served the country in government as Minister for Employment and then Prisons, and she took politics out of these ancient walls and became a bona fide TV star. Her contribution to our politics and our national life will never be forgotten. Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, Anne Widdecombe was murdered in her home. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing. Counter-terrorism policing have now taken the lead in the investigation. As Lawrence Taylor, the head of National Counter-Terrorism Policing, has said, and I quote, "We now have new information and evidence that means counter-terrorism policing is leading the investigation. We are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack." The police now have a suspect in custody, a 28-year-old white British man, and I can confirm to the House that this man was not known to prevent. The police have cautioned against speculating about the case. That is the right thing to do for Anne's family and friends. It is also vital that the police are given the space they need to carry out their work. For now, what matters most is supporting the investigation so that we can see justice delivered for Anne and all who loved her. And I would urge anyone with any information at all to come forward immediately. Mr. Speaker, I know this raises questions about the security of those in public life. I will not be the only one here thinking also of two other beloved members of this House, Jo Cox and Sir David Amess. Politics is a calling for those of us here, but it should not be a dangerous one. And so it is incumbent on the House and the Government to work together to protect those who choose to serve. The Home Office and the police work closely with the Parliamentary Security Department to provide practical advice and support directly to MPs. But we must always be vigilant to changing threats and respond. Security measures are kept under constant review to ensure MPs can carry out their duties safely. And I know that the police intend to issue guidance to MPs soon, and they will be contacting parliamentarians in their constituencies to offer support. I also recently commissioned the former Lord Chancellor, Sir Robert Buckland, to review the lessons from Sir David Amess's murder, including into required improvements to security for MPs working in their constituencies. I recognise the particular concern that the Reform Party will feel today, and of course Nigel Farage, the party's leader. I'm happy to offer a meeting for Mr Farage with the chair of RAVIC, the independent body within the Home Office that manages the security of those in public life. And I will also be looking at what security guidance can be provided to former members of Parliament, which I hope to work with you on, Mr Speaker, as well as those who serve a party outside of this place. Today is a dark day in our political life, but we must also use it as an opportunity to celebrate Anne Widdecombe's memory. She was a unique figure in our politics, a distinctive and devoted public servant, the likes of whom we will rarely, if ever, see again. Anne had a profound faith. Her journey in this life has ended too soon. May she now rest in eternal peace. I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phil.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement. I start by offering my deepest condolences to Anne's family and friends. She will be terribly missed. Anne sat as the Conservative MP for Maidstone for nearly a quarter of a century and in the European Parliament for the Brexit Party. She served in government and in opposition, including as Shadow Home Secretary. She always fearlessly spoke her mind. She did not worry about whether her opinion would be popular or would be fashionable. She always said exactly what she believed and exactly what she thought. Her integrity and her fortitude were unmatched. I first met Anne 29 years ago at a university debate, speaking on opposite sides. I was a callow 21-year-old student. She had just left government and was at the height of her powers. I remember starting my speech by asking her to treat me more gently than she had recently treated Michael Howard. Needless to say, I was put very firmly in my place. Anne was also a much-loved celebrity with memorable appearances on Strictly Come Dancing and Celebrity Big Brother, including being whirled around by, I think it was Anton Dubek. So we will all remember Anne fondly as a public figure who was always formidable, she was always charming, and she was always entertaining. Now, Mr. Speaker, as we discuss this appalling murder, we should heed the words of Devon and Cornwall Assistant Chief Constable Matt Longman, who said at the weekend this: "We are aware of online and public speculation, particularly with regard to motive. I urge people not to share or engage with speculation. It is unhelpful and distressing to Anne's friends and family, and particularly harmful to our investigation." Criminal barrister Dennis Kavanagh also recently pointed out that speculation makes the police's job harder and in some cases could even prejudice a trial. And I urge everyone debating this issue to keep that in mind. Mr. Speaker, it has just been confirmed by the Home Secretary that counter-terrorism police are now leading the murder investigation. So to help avoid that speculation, is there any further information the Home Secretary can properly share about this without prejudicing the investigation? I'd like to thank the police for releasing the information they have so far, including about the identity of the suspect. It is always important to release as much information as possible in the interest of transparency and to avoid misinformation filling the void, as Jonathan Hall KC, the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, has said previously. Let me turn now to threats against those in public life. Any threats against MPs who have been democratically elected to represent their constituents or others in public life should be taken extremely seriously. In the last 10 years, 2 MPs, Joe Cox and Sir David Amess, have been murdered. And now a former MP has been murdered as well. The threat is clearly real. I also remember in 2017 when terrorist Khalid Massoud drove a car into pedestrians along Westminster Bridge, injuring more than 50 people, 4 fatally, and then ran into New Palace Yard, just yards from where we sit here, where he fatally stabbed PC Keith Palmer. That was also an attack on democracy itself. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank you personally for all the work you are doing to protect MPs and those in public life. I know that as the Speaker of the House of Commons, you have made the safety and protection of those in public life your highest priority, and I would like to thank you for that. Yeah. We must redouble our efforts to ensure that public political figures who are MPs and those like Anne who are not MPs always receive the proportionate protection they need. I'd be grateful if the Home Secretary could confirm that she will review all the arrangements with this objective in mind. I believe in this country we should be able to debate each other robustly on important issues, but should also speak to each other in a way that is civil and respectful. Of course, nothing excuses violent attacks on public figures, but we should all also set an example of civility and calm and not inflame. Mr. Speaker, we need people to step up and become MPs and also speak in the public square. Debate and disagreement are what make our country great. Anne Widdecombe exemplified that every minute of her life. I pay tribute to her. I know we will all remember Anne forever.
Yeah. Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me thank the Shadow Home Secretary both for his own remarks and memories of Anne Widdecombe and also for his questions. Let me say to him that in relation to the new information that has come to light and the progress on the counter-terrorism policing investigation, there is a statement that has been put out by counter-terrorism policing, which I believe has been published online, but I will make sure it is placed in the library of the House as well. The main things to draw out for that are the fact, as I said in my statement, that new information and evidence means that they are now leading the investigation and that they are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry in order to establish the motivation of this attack. As soon as more information is available that is capable of being shared without compromising any future trial process, that will be done. So we take seriously, and I know counter-terrorism policing take very seriously the learnings from the summer of 2024 and definitely to heed the call of Jonathan Hall, Casey and others on timely release of information without compromising the ability to bring someone ultimately to justice, which is of course the main aim when such a horror of an attack happens. Let me also, Mr. Speaker, say I would like to echo the remarks made by the Shadow Home Secretary to you and to thank you personally for all of your efforts in maintaining the safety and security of parliamentarians. I know it's something that you personally worry about and take a deep interest in. Let me also say, given the fast-moving nature of this investigation, I don't want to say anything that will prejudice the direction of travel here. However, there is a question that is raised in this as a result of this murder, which relates not just to the security arrangements for sitting members of Parliament, but for those who have left this place but nevertheless retain a public profile as a result of their political party membership or their political activities. There are also, given the range of new political parties that are contesting the political and democratic space. I think questions about those who are not represented at all here in the House of Commons. And just to reassure you, Mr. Speaker, I will be looking at those arrangements very closely. I will seek to work with Mr. Speaker directly, and my officials will engage with parties across this House and those outside of it to make sure that whatever changes are made are done so in a manner that covers the multiple range of threats that we see. Mr. Speaker, I think there has been a step change in the security of parliamentarians over the last few years, but I think that it is a reflection of the multi-layered threats that our democracy faces and that our active individuals in democracy face, that this is not something we can ever take for granted or believe is settled. It is something that we have to continually review, which we do, and there are new questions that are raised, which I will make it my personal business to answer, and I will update the House in due course.
Member of the House, Diana.
The Home Secretary will be aware.
Yeah, that was Shabana Mahmood there, the Home Secretary, addressing the nation on the update around the situation around Anne Widdecombe. She said quite clearly there, Anne Widdecombe was murdered. Counter-terrorism police are pursuing multiple leads. What did we learn that's new? Well, a significant piece of information was this. The suspect was not previously known to Prevent. So this man was not known to the counter-terror body Prevent. That's the first piece of information we received that was new. Secondly, she said, I appreciate the rising level of threat, particularly to Reform UK members of Parliament, and on that point she said, I'm happy to offer Nigel Farage to meet with RAVEC. Now, Chris Hope informs me that is the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. So a meeting has been arranged to be set up between Nigel Farage and RAVEC to discuss in particular the security detail or needs or requirements around Reform UK. Now, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Chris Hope and also a surprise, a wonderful guest, former Conservative Minister Sir Liam Fox. Sir Liam, absolutely delighted to have you here in Westminster. Chris, let's just bring our viewers and listeners up to speed about the new bits of information we learned there, then get some reaction from Sir Liam.
Yeah, RAVEC is well known to viewers who followed the efforts by Prince Harry to secure his security here. RAVEC is the Royal and VIP Executive Committee in the Home Office, and they assess risk all the time. They're going to look further now at the risk it seems, to sitting MPs and also former MPs have a public profile into which obviously Anne Widdecombe would fall. This individual, not known to the Prevent. What Prevent is, it's the programme and stop people being radicalised. And that's why he was not known. This British white man, age 28, was not known to the authorities.
She also began the speech there by, very touchingly I felt, she talked about Anne Widdecombe on Graham Norton's sofa when Anne Widdecombe said, "We get one go in life. It's not a dress rehearsal. Go for it." Shabana Mahmood also said that Anne Widdecombe's contribution was immeasurable, but she did say she was murdered, and she concluded by saying Anne Widdecombe had a profound faith. May she rest in eternal peace. Sir Liam Fox, you join us in the studio. What are your reactions? You, of course, you knew Anne Widdecombe for a great many of years.
Well, I think the first thing is that this is a human tragedy, not a political story. And the thoughts have to be with Anne's family and her many friends, as you say, over many years. And, you know, what's come across is how incredibly respected Anne was, whether people were on her side or on a very different side. People regarded her as having a moral courage. She said what she believed to be right, and she would challenge others to make an opposite case. And I think that she's the sort of individual that we just don't have enough of in modern politics, when politics is all about focus groups, what do the voters want to hear, you know, and what do opinion polls tell us. She was someone who led with her, you know, her instincts, her moral instincts, as they say, you know, lead you with your heart, but always take your brain with you. That's very much Anne Widdecombe.
And yet, Sir Liam, initially, the police told us last week there was no link to terrorism, no link to political motivation. Now there is. Counter-terror police are now heading this investigation. A lot of talk there from Shabana Mahmood about the changing threat to members of Parliament, past and present. She said, "We have seen a step change in security." Offers there to Nigel Farage to meet with Ravek. Are you concerned, Sir Liam, that we are now entering a new period where it's never been more dangerous to be a parliamentarian?
Well, I wouldn't say never more dangerous in terms of history, but it is more dangerous than in the recent past. And I think that a lot of the behaviour that is magnified by social media, where people will come forward with very extreme views and seem to delight in being as polarising as possible, I think that is dangerous in itself. I think it's dangerous for the body politic as a whole, because I think it actually prevents people from wanting genuine political debate, and they seek headlines by the amount of noise and controversy they can create. And I think that what we need to do is to take a step back, and I think that Anne Widdecombe was a great role model for all those who were willing to speak the politics of conviction, the politics of belief, not the politics of confrontation. People may not have liked her views, people may have had very strong views against it, but she was always tolerant of those views, and she was willing to argue her case. That is what we should do in politics. It is not about noise, it's about substance.
The Home Office and the police must be vigilant to the changing threats and respond accordingly. Chris, it was a speech there. You see still live pictures on your screen. It was a speech, I think, with a lot of gravitas, very warm, Shabana Mahmood, towards Anne Widdecombe, putting politics to one side. Sir Liam, as you said, you know, Anne Widdecombe's talent, her majesty, let's be frank, transcended party politics. And yet, the conversation feels sinister. About security. And there's been a huge amount of conversation made around Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Zia Yousaf, saying, perhaps inflammatory, I don't know, you tell me what you think, that they felt particularly they've been abandoned in terms of security. At least Shabana Mahmood, to her absolute credit, set out today they're going to try and address that and arrange a meeting with Ravek.
And 6 days ago, we heard Nigel Farage talk about the threats to his family. He doesn't feel safe. It's being whipped up against him. He talked about the death threats he's received. And then this happens to the front bench, the spokesman on immigration and justice for the Reform UK party. I mean, this is where we are. And then we have a police force saying, no, it wasn't terrorism, and it wasn't politically motivated. Well, we don't know that, and that's looking more and more questionable the more we find out about this.
You can see live pictures still from the House of Commons. That is Lucy Powell, of course, from Labour. We understand Richard Tice from Reform UK is in chamber. He's attempting to get a speech. If he does, we'll go back to him. Are we moving on to my next guest now? Yeah, we are. We've got to get my next guest in now, and that's the former foreign policy aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Niall, welcome to the show. Bringing you up to speed there, I don't know how much you heard about the Shabana Mahmood statements, but clearly the security threat to Anne Widdecombe, she's dead. You know, Anne was confirmed there. She said she was murdered. Counter-terror police are involved, and the threat to the body politic seems to be increasing. In your opinion, Niall Gardner, how toxic has politics become?
Well, thank you for having me on the show today, Martin, and certainly politics has become incredibly toxic, and the horrific murder of Anne Widdecombe is a prime example of the hatred that we have in society right now, especially, it has to be said, hatred directed towards, conservative politicians. And we are seeing growing hatred from the left towards those on the right. And it's very sad to see this. I have to say, in light of the Home Secretary's statement, it's absolutely astonishing that, a terrorism inquiry was not launched immediately. I mean, this was the killing of a high-profile British political figure, and the government took several days before declaring this as a possible terrorist incident, which I find absolutely astounding and shocking. I mean, it's disgraceful, actually, the slow speed with which the government has responded to what looks very, very much like a politically motivated act of terrorism, basically.
Well, I mean, we don't know that yet. So they're still trying to establish. But I think what was unusual, I think what you're alluding to here, Niall Gardner, it was the police originally. It wasn't a government investigation at that point. It is now counter-terror. But the point being, the police initially were very happy and very quick to say there is no terrorism link, there is no political link, but they didn't know at that point. They had a different suspect.
Exactly.
And suddenly they do have a different suspect, and it's changed. I think a lot of people will be thinking, why do the police need to take a position on something they don't yet know?
Yeah, exactly. I do find the police response absolutely astonishing here, but also, without a doubt, the Labour government has been very slow to respond. They should immediately, have intervened and declared this as a potential terrorist attack, actually. So it's not just the responsibility of the police here. And, the whole response, I think, has been very disappointing so far. Anne Widdecombe was a very high-profile, highly principled political figure, and clearly she has been the subject of a great deal of abuse and threatening language over the course of many years, if not decades. And for the police to jump to early, conclusions, I find just absolutely stunning, really.
Now, Gardner, would you mind please bearing on the line for a moment, because I'm joined and suited by Sir Liam Fox. Sir Liam, you want to contribute on this point here. It was initially a police investigation, not a government investigation. Now it's counter-terror. But nevertheless, people are scratching their heads about this seeming shift of position from the authorities from Friday until today.
Well, it's an ongoing murder investigation. Let's face it, no one knows what they didn't know a couple of days ago. It's also the point that not all politicians want to be wrapped up in security. Politicians like the freedom to move around. Anne Widdecombe, I understand, didn't want police protection. She will have been in jobs in the past where you get full-time protection. I've been there, where you have your protection officers. They're with you all the time, outside your house, sometimes on holiday, and politicians, like everyone else, want their freedom, and they balance up the risks. And I think that we have to respect that as a choice that politicians have to be able to make. We've all been in the threats, I've had, I hope all your family die of cancer, sort of the messages. I mean, there are some fairly toxic, vile people out there, but that's not to pretend that the population as a whole is like that. We have a responsibility to conduct our politics within the realms of decency and a good quality debate. But we have to also let the police do their jobs. I think it is a mistake to ever say it's definitely not X. but it's also not yet definitely terrorism. It's being investigated. We do need to allow the police time to carry out their appropriate investigations without this constant speculation about what they're doing or even their motives, which I think is not right.
So then I want to come back to you in a moment's time about the prescription or not of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard in a moment's time. But before you go, Niall Gardner, can we always refer, as we do, to Margaret Thatcher? Of course, the IRA tried to take her life. You know, people were gravely injured by that. What do you think Margaret Thatcher would make of this grotesque turn that's befitted Anne Widdecombe?
Well, Margaret Thatcher, of course, stood up to the evils of terrorism on every occasion, and the reality is that we face an immense array of threats today, just as Margaret Thatcher, of course, faced down the evils of the IRA. Today we face down a whole new array of threats, including, of course, Islamist terrorists.
We need to cut back because Richard Tice is talking from Reform UK in the Commons.
She was a remarkable lady. She had an incredible work ethic. She would think nothing of going the length and breadth of the country to speak at rallies. She was an incredible orator who always spoke without notes. Absolutely remarkable. And her philosophy to life, the Home Secretary touched on it, she viewed life as it's not a dress rehearsal. You grasp every opportunity. You go for it as far as possible. Her career, her political career here, Mr. Speaker, I checked earlier, in 23 years, she made over 8,000 contributions in this place, and some remarkable witty interventions. When an honourable member said that she should disappear with her broomstick, she immediately replied, "I have my broomstick and I will cast a spell over you." and that was her nature. Likewise, her media career was also remarkable. She was an agony aunt in 2 programmes. She was a most deserving semi-finalist in Strictly Come Dancing, for sure. And of course, Celebrity Big Brother. And she was an incredible panto performer that was adored by so many. Her conviction, her passion, and her advocacy for free speech was to be commended. I had the honour of working with her for the last 7 years, and despite being a foot taller than her, I somehow always found myself looking up to her.
Very good.
And she also, when she phoned, I always stood up on my toes, incoming, beware. And that was Anne, and we will miss her dearly. And I also think that the Scottish whisky industry has lost a very discerning customer. And maybe there could be a limited edition, Widder's Whisky, where the tasting notes may reflect unique, unforgettable flavours, a fiery, spicy series of tones, but a blend to be treasured to eternity. May she rest in peace, Mr. Speaker. And I just asked the Home Secretary in conclusion, could she ensure that the counter-terrorism unit keep us updated on as regular possible basis? And given the nature of these things, we all want our police forces to do brilliantly, of course. Would it be wise, when considering motivation, when giving us early updates, to keep things being open-ended as opposed to motive, as opposed to ruling things out too quickly that may then end up being ruled back in? Yeah.
Well, let me first say to the honourable gentleman that was a very moving and affecting tribute to Anne Widdecombe. Let me say on Widder's Whisky, as a teetotal Muslim, I would never be able to partake of such a drink, although if there is a non-alcoholic version available, I will happily imbibe. Let me say to him, we will of course make sure that as and when it is possible to share more information about the circumstances of the murder and the motivation that is done so in the appropriate way, and also to reassure him at no point has anything been taken off the table in terms of the investigation. It's a live investigation. It is not unusual in these matters that in a fast-paced investigation, more information comes to light that changes the nature or the character of what we think we are dealing with. And I am reassured that Devon and Cornwall Police have been working really closely with counter-terrorism policing, and as soon as this additional information was made available, counter-terrorism policing have taken over as is appropriate and as is the right thing to do.
Speaker, and I would like to share this.
Yeah, that was Reform UK's Richard Tice there, paying a touching tribute, saying, and I can definitely vouch for this, despite being a foot shorter, I always looked up to Anne Widdecombe. Richard Tice saying whenever Anne Widdecombe telephoned him, he naturally stood up on his toes, calling for a Widdecombe whisky to be released, a unique, unforgettable, spicy blend, a blend to be treasured. Let's get back to the studio now. Sir Liam Fox still with me. You came in today to speak to us about the prescription, or so-called prescription, of the IRGC, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, by this government. About time, but do you think it's going to have any teeth?
Well, we're not sure that it is actually prescription in the sense that we understood that it might be. Prescription is something that is happens under the Terrorism Act 2000, where an organisation is banned. Support for them, membership of them, trying to encourage support for them is illegal in itself. What I think has happened today is what's called designation, which is under the 2023 Act, which is not quite the same. One is designed to tackle terrorism, one is designed to cover covert foreign influence. We will need to look. I'm afraid that, as very often with this government, what they're trying to pretend they have done and what they have done may not be the same thing. In any case, it's a step forward, but is it sufficiently a step forward to bring us into line with our allies? The United States proscribed the IRGC in 2019. Canada, Australia, all 27 members of the European Union have done it, and yet Britain is lagging behind, just as we're lagging behind in our response to Strait of Hormuz and what we discovered today, which is the IRGC using London to use cryptocurrencies to evade sanctions.
OK, Sir Liam Fox, thank you very much for joining us. Chris Hope, superb. Stick with us. Plenty more to come, including full analysis of Shabana Mahmood, Cam's Terror Police, now heading up the investigation into the murder of Anne Widdecombe. That's next.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 16 and 15 in Heathrow is closed. There is a collision on the M20 eastbound between junctions 8 and 9 in Maidstone Lenham. The M27 eastbound between junctions 5 and 7 in Southampton is affected by a collision. The A419 is closed after the A43111. Across Wales, the M4 is closed in both directions between junctions 32 and 34 near Corriton and Miskin following a severe accident. And on the trains, Gatwick Express and Southern Services are facing major disruption on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. An action-packed show awaits, and here's what's on today's show.
Today is a dark day in our political life, but we must also use it as an opportunity to celebrate Anne Widdecombe's memory. She was a unique figure in our politics, a distinctive and devoted public servant, the likes of whom we will rarely, if ever, see again.
Speaking a short moment ago in the House of Commons, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has paid a touching tribute to the former MP, the late MP Anne Widdecombe, and this came after counter-terrorism police took over leading the investigation into her murder after announcing that new information and evidence had come to light. We'll have all the latest reaction throughout the rest of today's show. And also today in Parliament, the law they claim will be changed so that the paedophile, the Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed, can finally be deported. But here's the question: will Pakistan listen and take back the Rochdale rape gang monster, or is it just yet more hot air? Full analysis ahead of that speech, we believe around about 6:30 by Shabana Mahmood in the House of Commons.
Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart.
And Reform UK has today claimed that Andy Burnham is plotting a £38 billion tax raid. That's the equivalent of 3,450 quid for every family, with taxes on death, taxes on homes, taxes on land and on savings. Are we heading for a 1970s-style war on wealth? I'll be joined in the studio by Reform UK's Robert Jenrick. And ahead of Wednesday's epic World Cup semi-final clash with Argentina, tensions between Argentina and England have reached fever pitch. Argentina's foreign minister blasted the UK's so-called illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands, with the topic now a political football. Should Britain show Argentina the red card? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. A short moment ago, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood gave a touching tribute to Anne Widdecombe, the late MP, who she said was murdered on Wednesday. We found some fresh information. We learned the suspect was not known to prevent the government's counter-terror unit, and also Nigel Farage has been offered a meeting with RAVEC, that's the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, to discuss enhanced security needs for Reform UK MPs. A very much a live breaking news story, full information coming through in the rest of today's show. Do not go anywhere. Plus a statement due at 6:30 around the Rochdale rape gang Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed. Will they finally change the law so he can be deported? Lots and lots to come. Don't go anywhere and get involved in the show. GBNews.com/You'll Say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Lewis Mackenzie.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon. 3 minutes past 5. Here are your latest GB News headlines. As you've just been hearing, counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old man in custody has been rearrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. This comes as the suspect is believed to have driven almost 300 miles to her home in Devon on the day of her death. Devon and Cornwall police confirmed they are not currently looking for any other suspects. Miss Widdecombe was found dead at her home on Thursday. Police believe she was killed nearly 24 hours earlier, around midday. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood gave this update to the House.
Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, Anne Widdecombe was murdered in her home. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing. Counter-terrorism policing have now taken the lead in the investigation. As Lawrence Taylor, the head of National Counter-Terrorism Policing, has said, and I quote, "We now have new information and evidence that means counter-terrorism policing is leading the investigation. We are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack." The police now have a suspect in custody, a 28-year-old white British man, and I can confirm to the House that this man was not known to prevent.
The government has announced that it will be using new powers to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a written letter, the Home Secretary told the Parliament that UK has identified activity linked to the IRGC involving threats to life and intimidation on UK soil. Support for the IRGC, from expressing a positive opinion to assisting them, will be an offence punishable by up to 14 years in prison. The government will also today set out the legal steps it will take to deport the freed ringleader of a Rochdale grooming gang. Shabir Ahmed was jailed for 22 years in 2012 for multiple counts of sexual abuse of a child offence, including rape. He was released from prison on licence earlier this month. Calls have been mounting across the political spectrum for the deportation of Ahmed, who was stripped of his British citizenship following his conviction, leaving him with only Pakistani nationality. 12 people have been arrested as part of an investigation by counter-terrorism policing in London. The investigation, which is extreme right-wing terror-related, is connected to a suspected threat directed towards an Islamic event held in Suffolk over the weekend. Due to the concerns over the possible threat, advice was provided via Suffolk Police to the organisers of the event to close early. The Prime Minister has released a statement thanking the quick action taken by the police, adding, "My message is clear. I will not tolerate any attacks on our Muslim communities or any form of anti-Muslim hatred." Argentina's foreign minister called Falkland Islanders an artificially implanted population. He also said the 2013 referendum held on the islands, in which locals voted 99.8% to remain British, was illegitimate and called for negotiations over the Falklands' future. Number 10 have denied the claim, saying the Falkland Islands are British with the right to determine their own future. The right to self-determination is paramount. The row was reinvigorated by the Argentine football team, who were filmed singing they would win the World Cup for Las Malvinas. England play Argentina on Wednesday night for a place in the final. And finally, Jurassic Park star Sam Neill has sadly died at the age of 78. The Northern Ireland-born New Zealand actor was best known for his leading roles in the dinosaur blockbuster films The Piano and Peaky Blinders. He appeared in more than 50 films over his very distinguished career. No cause of death has been given, but Neil recently revealed he was cancer-free after being diagnosed with blood cancer in 2022. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. Let's get your finances.
Markets on the move. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you 1.34 US dollars and 1.173 euros. The price of gold is at £3,000 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,494 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Lewis. Top story today, of course. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the murder of Anne Widdecombe after new information and evidence came to light. Speaking in the House of Commons a short moment ago, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood vowed to assess security advice for former MPs.
I recognise the particular concern that the Reform Party will feel today, and of course Nigel Farage, the party's leader. I'm happy to offer a meeting for Mr Farage with the chair of RAVIC, the independent body within the Home Office that manages the security of those in public life. And I will also be looking at what security guidance can be provided to former members of Parliament, which I hope to work with you on, Mr Speaker, as well as those who serve a party outside of this place.
Now, this comes after a 28-year-old white British man was rearrested on suspicion of the commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. Let's now speak with GB News' Homeland Security Editor Mark White, who joins us live from Devon, close to the scene there. Oh, you buy the floral tribute there, Mark.
Yeah, we wanted, as upsetting as it is, to just move away from the police cordon for a while, to give you an indication of just how many are coming out of your way to come right in the heart of Dartmoor here, this tiny village, to lay floral tributes. So you can see here, Martin, dozens and many more have come today again. People visibly upset, of course they are, because Anne Widdecombe made such an impression on so many people here locally but nationally around the country. I want to just read you some of the messages that people have left. One, Anne, you will always live on in the nation's hearts. Thank you for everything you did in British politics. You are an amazing person, always at the center. First, I saw you speak 3 times. Each time you had people giving you a standing ovation. You were such a motivational speaker. Another one. Oh, Anne, thank you, sweet lady, for all the love you showed to many animals and charities. And this one, Martin. R.I.P. Anne, you were and are a beacon of hope for the UK. God bless.
And Mark White, you can see now the camera focused on a wonderful portrait of Anne Widdecombe there, surrounded by flowers, by cuddly toys, gently blowing in the wind, and of course a Union flag, the precise kind of Union flag that would have been on Anne Widdecombe's desk in the European Parliament. Very, very moving to see it like that. Quite took my breath away, Mark. We were listening to Shabana Mahmood, Mark, a short moment ago in Parliament. We learned some new information, did we not? The key piece of information: the suspect, currently detained under counter-terrorism laws, was not known to prevent.
Well, not known to prevent, yes. Now, this is the counter-extremism unit that is meant to diversion for the extremism, but that doesn't mean, of course, that he wasn't. Indeed, perhaps the counter-terrorism detectives are not then referred to prevent. So let's see in the fullness of time. I've been to too many of these cases that turn out to be terrorist incidents where we're told in the first instance that a suspect just wasn't on the radar, when actually it turns out that a suspect was on the radar on multiple occasions. So just because prevent have no knowledge of him haven't been other contacts. So let's see in the fullness of time. This individual, Martin, is still in police custody, and now that, of course, he has been rearrested on suspicion of the commission, preparation or instigation of a terrorist attack, that means that the police can hold him for to the bottom of key pieces of evidence that they might need to take a bit more time in gathering, so up to 2 weeks before they then have to make that decision of either releasing or charging. That, doesn't mean they'll take that time. They may, in a day or two's time, come away with a charge, indeed, if they have that kind of information. But it's certainly interesting and notable at this early stage that we're hearing that there was no contact with prevent. Or just yesterday, and for every day for the past 5 days, we're hearing from the police a terrorism connection until today, when now there is.
Okay, Mark White,
the counter-terrorism police say they are investigating, Martin.
Okay, Mark, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for giving us those very special, moving pictures and those messages to Anne Widdecombe from members of the public who laid flowers at that floral tribute in Devon. Thank you very much, Mark White. Thank you. Back to the studio. Chris Hope, quick bit of reaction from you. We learned from Shabana Mahmood around about 20 minutes ago in the chamber. The man was not known to prevent, but the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood said Anne Widdecombe was murdered on Wednesday. There's been a lot of sort of language, but she said has been murdered. And also special mention to Nigel Farage and the security around Reform UK. Bring our viewers and listeners up to speed about that aspect.
Yes, and on the language of being murdered matters, because until someone's charged with murder, then they've been killed, but murdered, not allegedly murdered, it was murder. So that moves it on slightly from where we were before the Home Secretary spoke. There's a group called RAVEC, which is the Royal and VIP Executive Committee in the Home Office. Viewers who follow our coverage of Prince Harry will know this RAVEC committee is the one which has said they can't provide protection all the time when Prince Harry comes here, and that's why he hasn't really been back to the UK a lot. His court case was with the Home Secretary in the Home Office over the RAVEC support. Now, RAVEC also does support for all VIPs in this country. There's obviously a few thousand of those, you might imagine, and she will arrange a meeting in the Home Secretary between Nigel Farage and the head of RAVEC to discuss what further support he can have. Why that matters is he's in trouble or being investigated over a £5 million gift he says he needs to spend on his own protection, and that's why we saw Nigel Farage last Tuesday resign as the leader of as an MP, I should say, in Clacton, because he's concerned about what's going on with him. Yes, we know that it wasn't known to prevent, and we also know, don't we, that this further protection will be offered to other retired politicians in the public eye, a bit like Anne Widdecombe was. She was a front bench spokesman for Reform UK on justice and the like, but she had no support at all.
What this means for the security around Reform UK MPs is a question I shall pose to Robert Jenrick. He's going to be joining us in the studio in a moment's time. But moving on to another story doing the rounds today. The Home Secretary is very, very busy today, this time preparing to change the law in an attempt to deport the Rochdale grooming gang leader, the rape gang leader, Shabir Ahmed. Shabana Mahmood is expected to announce plans around about 6:30, we believe, this evening to close a legal loophole that currently prevents his removal from the United Kingdom, despite him being stripped of his British citizenship. Now, this comes, of course, after Shabir Ahmed was released from prison earlier this month after serving just 14 years for the serial rape and sexual offences against girls as young as 12 children. I'm joined now by the political strategist Pablo Ohana. Pablo, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Irrespective of our political stripes, we can all agree Shabir Ahmed should rot in hell, ideally in Pakistan. A law we hear is being changed today. This kite was flown a week ago. We know the details, but are you confident that this will be more than just hot air?
Well, I hope so. I completely agree. He needs to be out of our country, and indeed anybody who commits those kind of crimes booted out of the country as soon as possible. There is zero space for anything like that in our country. I think some of the difficulty from this is, of course, that it has been underpinned by the ECHR, which protects things like the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. It also has, a lot of questions around the Windrush generation. So that's where some of the complication has come. But absolutely, he needs to get out of this country as soon as possible. No doubt about that.
Pablo, you neatly highlight one of the next potential stumbling blocks of this, because Shabana Mahmood can say she wants the law changed. That would require the support of the Attorney General, Lord Hermer. Now, we've heard from the former Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, repeatedly that it's uncharted territory to change a law retrospectively that will go back in time. You could bet your house on the fact, Pablo, there'll be KCs, judges out there who won't like this, and they may well invoke legal powers to try and stop it. So even if it does legally get over the line, Pakistan will be the next hurdle. They could say, we don't want him back. He's not a Pakistani citizen anymore. He's your problem. What happens next? Because, Pablo, a lot of people think this Labour government, there's no chance whatsoever that they will actually stand up to Pakistan.
Well, I think they're going to have to, because I think on something like this is the kind of story that cuts through with the public. My expertise in politics has always been about PR and about how you deliver a message and deliver a narrative, and this is something that cuts through, and rightly so. There is not one single person in this country who is not going to be horrified by this story, and it is important for this Labour government, in particular, because you've got we have a brand new Prime Minister coming in very, very soon. They need to get a grip on this and make sure this person, and indeed anybody that commits these kind of crimes, are out of our country. It will be non-negotiable, and I think, yes, you're right that there will be some kind of toing and froing, and as I say, we do have to be a little bit careful, because there are some kind of laws that are interlinked that mean that we had issues with the Windrush generation, as I say, around Good Friday Agreement. We need to be very, very careful that we don't kind of cause any issues with those kinds of protections, but on this, absolutely out of the country.
Pablo, Anna, I totally agree with you. Thank you, my friend, for coming on the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. Chris Hope, I'm going to come back to you now. Shabana Mahmood expected to deliver a speech in Chamber in around about an hour's time. Of course, GB News will be live for that. But this is the huge test for the Prime Minister in waiting, the Scarlet Pimpernel of politics. Where is Andy Burnham? He needs to face up to the facts that in a few days' time, he's going to be crowned, coronated, our Prime Minister. No scrutiny, no questions, no intrusion, no soft-soaped by the media, or like yourself, not allowed anywhere near Andy Burnham's inner sanctum. These kind of problems will be in his in-tray, the same as every PM before him. He doesn't get a grip, he's done for. I
think it's crazy, I think. Tomorrow I think it's now moved later this week. But anyway, there'll be the final cabinet that Sir Keir Starmer speaks at. But Andy Burnham won't go to that meeting because he's not a cabinet minister. Don't you think if he's handing over power on the Monday, there should be come along and sit at the back, Andy, and look at how the boss does it? I just find it breathtaking. Parliament rises on Thursday for a 6-week summer break. We have a new Prime Minister on Monday, Andy Burnham. We won't hear from him. It is crazy. Things are happening because he's tweeting about things. He does the odd interview, but not much more than that. If I can just talk to you about grooming gangs very briefly. Our colleague, Charlie Peters, has got a degree of a lot of knowledge about this story, but also about the negotiations with Pakistan. Now, the Pakistan Airways don't fly to the UK, and he thinks that maybe there's some maybe the fact we have this lack of the aircraft, the airlines flying to and fro, that could be part of the negotiation with the UK government.
Stick them on a charter flight. We'll have a whip around, mate.
Pakistan will want something in return for taking back this man. Now, of course, there could be withdrawing visa support, aid money, but maybe this idea of allowing the Pakistani International Airways to fly to and from the UK could be part of the conversation.
You cannot logically say and morally say that Pakistan has a scintilla of leverage in this case. Take back your garbage.
They are lobbying, Martin, for the Pakistani International Airlines to fly to Britain. Charlie Peters reported that for GB News Online and last year, so I think that could form part of the conversation.
Well, let's wait and see. And again, I put it to you, Chris, this will be the challenge that the Prime Minister in waiting, who's being Ming-Vosed, soft-soaped, anointed, this is precisely the kind of nightmare that will be in his tray on Monday morning. And I tell you what, Andy Burnham, you need to get a grip, sharpish, because you've heard from the show throughout. People on the political left, the centre, the right, they all want the same thing. They want Shabir Ahmed gone.
The one thing that also should happen, probably, is that Parliament should delay rising for its summer recess till the end of next week to allow one Prime Minister's questions to see Kemi Badenoch grilling Andy Burnham as a Prime Minister. We won't see that, Martin, until September.
Ludicrous. He needs to face some scrutiny and sharpish. Chris, superb as ever. Thank you very much. Still to come, Argentina's foreign minister blasted the UK's so-called illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands, with the topic now a political football. Should Britain show the Argentines the red card? And also today, the law is set to be changed, so we hear, so the Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed can finally be deported. But will Pakistan listen and take back the Rochdale rape gang and monster, or is this simply, once again, more political pantomime and hot air? That's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
Oh, thank you. And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, later on today, we'll be hearing from the Home Secretary once again, Shabana Mahmood, this time as she claims to be preparing to change the law in an attempt to deport the Rochdale rape gang monster, Shabir Ahmed. Let's now speak with the former Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration, John Vine. John, it's always a pleasure to have your company. I'll ask you the same question I've been asking my guests all day. We've known for a week that Shabana Mahmood would like to change the law so that this maggot will be gone from our country. But the problem is this. The Attorney General has to agree. Lawyers could contest it. John, do you think we'll ever be rid of this individual, this monster, or is this going to be the political nightmare for Andy Burnham?
Well, good afternoon, Martin. I think it's difficult because, of course, changing the law retrospectively is just not the way we do things in the UK. So it'll be a challenge, but I think it can be done. And at the end of the day, irrespective of what changes are made to the law, it's down to Pakistan to take actually this individual back. Now, the Oxford Migration Observatory early this year did a report on returns of people who, shouldn't be in the UK, and they singled out Pakistan and Bangladesh as 2 countries where, despite the fact that there's a returns agreement with the UK, which has been in place since 2022, they have a very poor track record of taking back, criminals that are nationals of their country. So the Home Secretary really has to play hardball, I think, in order to get the Pakistani government to actually get this person out of this country and back to theirs.
John Vine, it would seem inconceivably, grim that Islamabad would even come to the table and say, do you know what? To take back a serial paedophile, we demand the release of political dissidents, or we demand a new flight path from Islamabad to the United Kingdom. A strong government would say, do you know what, lads? No means no. absolutely no chance. Take him back, or we'll have a trade war. Let's start with visas. Let's start with foreign aid. Let's start with multiple things. John, as you say, it's time to get tough.
It is. And the way to do it is to restrict the visas. So the Home Secretary has already done this. Early this year, she did it with Namibia and Angola. And the other country she wanted to restrict visas for was the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, the DRC resisted, and what she did was to start restricting visas on VIPs, members of their government, you know, high-profile individuals, wealthy individuals who wanted to come to the UK for whatever reason. And the DRC caved in. They actually complied. So the same thing needs to be done with, you know, the high-profile individuals, members of the Pakistani government, people of influence in Pakistan who want visas to come to the UK. The Home Secretary needs to say, unless you take this person back, then I'm afraid we won't be issuing visas to anybody and of that ilk, and we could extend that ban to ordinary Pakistanis who want to come to the UK as well. It's going to be difficult because obviously there's a big Pakistani community of heritage in the UK, but she's got the levers at her disposal to really make it painful for them if they refuse.
John Vine, you speak a lot of common sense. I just don't think it will catch on. And I'll tell you why. Because the Labour Party, for decades, has failed to grasp the problem with the Pakistani paedophile community, the rape gang leaders, going across multiple areas. Shabir Ahmed was a member of the Labour Party. He worked for Oldham Labour Council as a welfare officer. The fingerprints are all over this. So to get tough, as you propose, as many of our viewers and listeners will say, is absolute common sense, would require an unprecedented degree of political nous, which we've never seen from the Labour Party.
Well, I think irrespective of the politics of it, it's important that we give visas to the right people to come to the UK for the right purposes. And obviously, you know, when people have committed crimes of this sort of of much lesser nature than this, we're talking about, you know, horrendous crimes that this man's committed, then it's incumbent on any government to ensure that people are removed. Returns and removals of people who have no right to be in the UK are as important a part of the immigration system, any immigration system, as is a fair system of asylum, of granting asylum to people who are fleeing persecution. Unless you actually have an effective way of returning people, then it makes a nonsense of the whole system. So, you know, the Home Secretary knows what to do. We have a very powerful tool in relation to visas, and she's got to stand up and take the right course of action.
I want to just ask you a quick question, because a lot of people are saying, well, the problem is we don't have a direct flight path. Surely, as a former independent chief inspector of borders and immigration, John Vine, there's a simple solution. Charter a flight. We'll have a whip around. GBNews viewers and listeners will have a whip around and raise the cash, I'd imagine, before the end of this show. Charter a flight, get Shabir Ahmed in and clear him out the country.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's, you know, the fact that the PIA doesn't apparently have a route, I wasn't aware of that, but we return people through chartered flights all the time. The Home Office does that, sometimes with other countries, but sometimes on its own behalf. And it will cost more money, but it has to be done.
Who cares? It costs a lot less money than keeping him in secure accommodation with a security detail and living the life of Riley. Let's be frank, that the children he raped and violated never got to enjoy. But thank you for your expertise and your time. As ever, superb former independent chief inspector of borders and immigration, John Vine. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
And still to come on today's show, Argentina's foreign minister has blasted the UK's so-called illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands, with the topic a political football ahead of the semi-final clash against the Argentines on Wednesday. Is it time to show these diplomats the red card? But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, here is your traffic and your travel update. Stay safe and stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M25 anti-clockwise is closed between junctions 16 and 15 at Heathrow due to a collision. There is also a collision on the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 13 and 12 at Thorpe. The M27 eastbound is affected by a collision at junction 7 in Hedge. The M20 eastbound is affected by a collision between junctions 8 and 9 near Maidstone Lenham. Across Wales, the M4 both directions is closed between junctions 32 and 34 from Corryton to Miskin following a severe accident. And on the trains, Gatwick Express and Southern services are experiencing major disruption on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old man is in custody and he has now been re-arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. The government has announced that it's using new powers to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a written letter, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood told Parliament that the UK has identified activity linked to the IRGC involving threats to life and intimidation on UK soil. The government will also set out the legal steps it will take to deport Shabir Ahmed, the freed ringleader of a Rochdale grooming gang. And finally, Jurassic Park star Sam Neill has sadly died at the age of 78. No cause of death has been given, but Neill recently revealed he was cancer-free after being diagnosed with blood cancer in 2022. Well, those are your latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good afternoon. Yes, it is time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine, warm summer's evening for most. Still quite breezy across the south and the east, where it is also still quite chilly on the east coast. Under high pressure, the wind's coming in from the sea. There's also low pressure to the south and a bit more cloud spreading in across the Channel Isles. May just provide one or two showers. A small chance of a flash of lightning or a rumble of thunder. But if you're after any rain, well, I don't think we're going to see much of that. Most places staying dry and staying clear. The cloud will seep back in across these eastern areas as we go through the night. But further west it stays clear. A reasonably comfortable night, certainly across northern Britain. Temperatures in rural spots down into single figures, so not as hot as many nights have been so far through this summer, but still pretty warm across the south. Another very warm sunny day to come for most tomorrow. Cracking day in western Scotland. The east coast will be plagued by that ha, certainly initially. Lots of sunshine to come for Northern Ireland on Tuesday, northwest England, but northeast England down across the Midlands, even into East Wales. Some of this cloud may well have spread in by first thing tomorrow morning, making for a bit of a grey start here. Might even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle, but that should fizzle quickly. The cloud will tend to gradually melt away. Some of the coasts may stay a little misty, and certainly on that east coast it will be rather fresh with this breeze, but generally the wind's lighter than today, certainly across the south, and lots of sunshine to come. A little hotter again on Tuesday, particularly over the Midlands, the southeast, 31, 32. It will be cooler on those North Sea coasts, more likely to be in the high teens. Not a great deal of change through Tuesday evening. Keeping our eyes down across France, where there's always the possibility of thunderstorms drifting up. That'll be a continued chance through the rest of this week, but if you're after rain, no real sign of it. Lots more sunshine to come over the next few days.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News Now. Is Andy Burnham planning a tax raid on the wealthy? Well, according to a new report, an analysis by Reform UK published today, the Prime Minister in waiting is expected to raise an eye-watering £38 billion to fund a spending spree once in office. Now, the report claims that introducing tax rises not set out in Labour's 2024 manifesto would pile massive pressure on Andy Burnham to call an early general election. Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor Chris Hope. Chris Hope, Robert Jenrick was meant to be here to discuss this with us. He is presently waiting in chamber to speak on the matter of Anne Widdecombe, and that's where he should be. He should be trying to get his word in there, particularly around security for Reform UK parliamentarians. So you and I would knock this idea around. This analysis out today is claiming, when they've looked back through Andy Burnham's policy pictures of yore, it's there in plain sight. Death taxes on family homes, an additional 10% on inheritance tax, tax rises on savings and investments. That's capital gains tax to be aligned with your income tax rate. Now, the point is, this is all a workaround because we haven't had any official announcement whatsoever from Andy Burnham on tax, or indeed on anything.
So what they've done at Reform UK, which is entirely right if they want to do this, is go through comments made by Andy Burnham, what's he looking at spending money on, and then add it all up, which is of course what any opposition party would do. Yes, they're increasing a £38 billion tax rate, a care levy of 10% on the value of estates after death, reforming of the rates of capital gains tax, maybe equalising that with income tax, imposing national insurance on landlords' rental income. And these are taxes not mentioned, crucially, in the July 2024 manifesto. So when Andy Burnham comes in, we're told he'll stick to the tax lock on national insurance, VAT, income tax not going up. National insurance, of course, for employees, not employers. That was pushed up by Rachel Reeves in that budget last year. But so you must stay within those tram lines. But if he goes outside them, he will face huge pressure, the moral pressure, to have a general election in short order. This is not in the manifesto. Now, I'm trying to find a right reply from Andy Burnham's camp. He's not commenting because Martin, he's not talking to us now. But we have heard from Lord O'Neill of Gately, the former Goldman Sachs chief economist. He said that Mr Burnham's government, which takes office next Monday, I've got to say, would not tax the hell out of you. He said, made quite clear that, that he thinks that they won't go forward with this. In fact, Andy Burnham can't do this. He'll find it very, very hard not to have a general election. He's got a huge problem, Andy Burnham. 40 bills were proposed by the Starmer government in May. Many of those Burnham can't do and won't do if he wants to do the change he talks about.
And yet, here's a parliamentarian, when he was in office, who never once voted for benefit cuts, voted many times for benefits increases. All of this has got to be paid for. Now, he can say all he likes. Well, we don't agree with tax rises, but the alternative is to borrow more. Chris, we're already $3 trillion up to our necks in debt. So unless he's going to go down Jeremy Corbyn's allotment and chop down the magic money tree, the only way is tax rises.
Yes, Martin, because the last government and this government chose not to raise taxes to pay for the £500 billion they spent in 3 years on dealing with the COVID pandemic and also the energy shock from Ukraine. That's the problem. By not raising a tax to pay for that, putting it all on the country's overdraft, if you like, they can't borrow any more for what they need now. And there we are where we are. Of course, the Tories would say, whether you're here, well, Robert Jenrick here said the same thing on this one. He would say they should be cutting the benefits bill. So far, no sign of that is coming from the Andy Burnham administration.
And here's the funny thing. When you look at where Labour voters live now, a lot of them live in London and the South East. A lot of them might be sat on a nice nest egg. A lot of them might have a £1.5–2 million plus property. Andy Burnham might find that all these left-wing policies actually start to nibble at his own voters.
Well, certainly the mansion tax policy, as it's described, coming under Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, that will tax at £2 million any mansions, in quotes, worth over that. But yeah, I mean, there is a real question mark here amongst what Andy Burnham plans. It is a completely blank slate in so many areas. We're trying to analyse down the quotes on social media, interviews he's given elsewhere, vibes, chats with advisors organisers, it's not, for me, Martin, it's not really good enough. I just would remind you, when Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak fought for the leadership, there were 12 hustings around the country. When it was Jeremy Hunt against Boris Johnson, 16 hustings. That's when members can ask them questions and we cover them as journalists. That gave us a flavour of what's going to happen. This is a selectorate appointing someone behind closed doors. The only hustings will take place tonight. Again, behind closed doors, there'll be a Zoom conversation between MPs and Andy Burnham. We have no oversight of what the heck's going on with who will be the Prime Minister next Monday, and it is difficult to defend.
It's a lack of press intrusion that I think will make Vladimir Putin blush. They won't allow us to ask questions. Yeah. You've been effectively muzzled. They won't return calls. We don't know what they stand for on tax. He's been carried into Downing Street like a Ming vase.
Well, they are. To be fair to them, they are returning calls when you ask.
Well, what's his ideas on tax?
They're not commenting on what they would describe as probably as a back of a fact packet calculation by Reform UK. But they are not.
Tell us we're wrong. Prove we're wrong.
Because I think
give us your policy.
Into this, well, the things he wants to do, such as maybe bring it into some form of public ownership, the utilities and other areas, will cost lots of money, billions of pounds of our money. Where will it come from? That's why Reform is entitled to speculate.
Well, the Scarlet Pimpernel of politics, kind of vague questions forever. Perhaps we'll get some answers on Monday. Chris Oakes, superb as ever. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, coming up, don't go anywhere, because Argentina's foreign minister has blasted the UK's supposedly illegitimate occupation of the Falkland Islands. Once again, the Malvinas, as they call them, have been revved up ahead of that semi-final on Wednesday. I'll be joined in the studio by a staunch defender of the British sovereignty, Mark Francois, MP. He'll give them, no doubt, both barrels. That's next. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of your top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there. The heatwave continues across much of Europe. Central and southern parts of France in particular could see temperatures in the low to mid-40s. Along with the high temperatures, lots of dry, sunny weather to continue across many areas, though the humidity could be enough to spark off some thunderstorms across northern parts of Italy, Austria, Slovenia, potentially parts of Croatia as well. The sunshine continues this week alongside the hot temperatures, widely in the high 30s to low 40s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
But what message would you just like to say? Because this one's voted for by the public.
Yes.
And it's all down to the viewers. What message have you got for those guys?
Well, we've got the best viewers in the world, haven't we? The most loyal viewers, the best viewers. And, of course, they've supported Breakfast for so many years with Ellie and all the other members of Breakfast. And, you know, we can't do it without them.
Yeah, I think we are unique, GB News, in the way that our viewers are really central to everything that we do. So, you know, with our GB Views at gbnews.com, we're always reading off the comments. We have viewers on all the time to talk to us about our stories. I think we are the only place that actually has our viewers front and centre. So it's so nice to have something back in a Trick Award when they recognise, you know, the hard work that we try and do every single year. So please, God, 4 years on the trot would be great, wouldn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Is now wearing a Pegasus necklace badge commemorating the airborne forces. This week, 76 years ago, started the Korean War, often known as the Forgotten War. This is an opportunity for remembrance as well, isn't it?
That's right. In remembering with all of the conflicts, you know, it's affected every single person here who is in uniform. But it doesn't just stop there. Once they do get to the end of their service, they're often felt like they're forgotten about. So a big part of it is about remembering those that have fallen, but also those that are still alive and that are still with their own struggles. I wouldn't be able to do the job that I do now. I lead international expeditions and have done for the last 30 years. And the majority of those skills and that skill set and why I get asked back come directly from my time in the service, my time in the Royal Marines.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast has won the Trick Awards for the 4th year on the trot. I'm here with Alex Armstrong and Diamond and Ellie Costello. Guys, congratulations. Ellie, how does it feel?
Just incredible. I was really hoping we could do it 4 years on the bounce, but you can't take these things for granted, can you? And I did think maybe they'll want to give it to someone else this year, and I really, really wanted us to win, because Anne is here from her cruise.
Brilliant, yeah.
And Anne, your acceptance speech was amazing. You reflected on your years in the industry. How much does this mean?
I was able to hold one of these was 40 years ago, 1986, for the same sort of breakfast television programme that they said would never catch on.
There you go.
Full circle moment.
And what message have you got for GB News viewers? Because obviously this is voted for by the public.
Oh, it's thanks. I mean, it's real thanks, because that's why this award is so important.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 10:06. Got some breaking news in for you now, and it is this. The Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, has accepted the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's offer to meet with the chair of RAVEC. Now, RAVEC, of course, is the Royal... Chris Hope.
It's the Royal and VIP Executive Committee in the Home Office, Martin.
So that's the security that looks after important people, including Prince Harry. Let's just go back to that. In a post on social media, Nigel Farage said he will discuss the security of all Reform UK politicians, including those who are not MPs. Now, that would, of course, included Anne Widdecombe until her murder. Shabana Mahmood said this is a murder. She said that earlier on in the House of Commons. Chris, let's just go back over that. So this is the breaking news line. Earlier on, Shabana Mahmood, around about an hour ago, she addressed the House of Commons, talking about, she said she understood the special concerns of Reform UK parliamentarians. There's been a huge conversation on social media around the security or lack of for Reform UK members of Parliament, and she set out in that statement that she would set up a meeting between Mr Farage and RAVEC.
That's right. So what is RAVEC? It's the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. It handles the police requirements to keep royalty safe, and members of the government in the public eye, and even politicians too. And you often see when you see some politicians moving around, you see security walking with them or just behind them. Those are appointed by RAVEC. RAVEC is chaired by someone called Sir Richard Mottram, who was a former permanent secretary of the Department for Transport back in the day. He's been around for a long time. He chaired this committee, which weighs up, is it required? Don't forget, Prince Harry did not get any security from the police, apart from on a case-by-case basis, but no automatic security, and that's why he hasn't been back to this country for so long.
Now, Zia Youssef has certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons on social media this week, and seems to make a habit of that, but he implied that the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, and Parliament in general don't care about security of Reform UK MPs, and a huge debate erupted over that. But it seems here Shabana Mahmood has listened and acknowledged that there is, in her words, a special concern by Reform UK MPs. Is this, do you think, an acknowledgement that they're at greater risk?
Well, it does. It is, yes. Now, I should say, by the way, that Sir Lindsay Hoyle has spoken about this in the House of Commons this afternoon, and he made clear that he does his best to protect all members. I mean, that, of course, was Zia Youssef, not an MP, attacking the Speaker of the House of Commons, but the Speaker himself would say that is always uppermost in what he does. And in fact, we've been trying to speak to him for GB News all day, and he hasn't been available, but that's fine. He speaks from the Speaker's chair. But it is a concern that there is a greater pressure in parts of our politics. And of course, Anne Widdecombe, she wasn't a retired politician, Martin, when she was murdered in her own home. She was murdered in her own home when she was the Immigration and Justice spokesman for Reform UK.
OK, thank you very much, Chris. Now, before we hand over to Michelle Jury, a quick summary of what we've learned today. The counter-terror police are now heading the investigation into the murder of Anne Widdecombe. We learned that the suspect, was not previously known to prevent the counter-terror organisation, although Mark White said that can change. He's seen cases before where people who were known suddenly are known. And that second point there, Shabana Mahmood acknowledged that Mr Farage, Nigel Farage, would be meeting with RAVEC, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, which seems to be an acknowledgement of the fact Reform UK MPs are under a special danger in this new world of hostility in politics. So up next is Michelle Jury, Jubes & Co, 6 p.m, of course, the Queen of Primetime Debate. Jubes, what's on your menu?
Yeah, a shocking day of developments, of course, Martin. I mean, you could be forgiven now for thinking, who on earth would actually want to be a politician or an MP in this day and age? Robert Jenrick, he missed your show. He'll be joining us on mine in just a second, as will Nick Timothy and more. So get yourself a cup of tea or something a little bit stronger. And yes, I will see you in just a second. What a day it has been again for British politics. There's so much that we need to discuss.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Yes, it is time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine, warm summer's evening for most. Still quite breezy across the south and the east, where it is also still quite chilly on the east coast. Under high pressure, the wind's coming in from the sea. There's also low pressure to the south and a bit more cloud spreading in across the Channel Isles. May just provide one or two showers. A small chance of a flash of lightning or a rumble of thunder. But if you're after any rain, well, I don't think we're going to see much of that. Most places staying dry and staying clear. The cloud will seep back in across these eastern areas as we go through the night. But further west, it stays clear. A reasonably comfortable night, certainly across northern Britain. Temperature in rural spots down into single figures, so not as hot as many nights have been so far through this summer, but still pretty warm across the south. Another very warm, sunny day to come for most tomorrow. Cracking day in western Scotland. The east coast will be plagued by that har, certainly initially. Lots of sunshine to come for Northern Ireland on Tuesday, northwest England, but northeast England down across the Midlands, even into East Wales. Some of this cloud may well have spread in by first thing tomorrow morning, making for a bit of a grey start here. Might even be a little bit of light rain and drizzle, but that should fizzle quickly. The cloud will tend to gradually melt away. Some of the coasts may stay a little misty, and certainly on that east coast it will be rather fresh with this breeze, but generally the wind's lighter than today, certainly across the south, and lots of sunshine to come. A little hotter again on Tuesday, particularly over the Midlands, the southeast, 31, 32. It will be cooler on those North Sea coasts, more likely to be in the high teens. Not a great deal of change through Tuesday evening. Keeping our eyes down across France, where there's always the possibility of thunderstorms drifting up. That'll be a continued chance through the rest of this week, but if you're after rain, no real sign of it. Lots more sunshine to come over the next few days.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M25 anti-clockwise is closed between junctions 16 and 15 near Heathrow. There is a collision causing long delays on the M25 at junction 2. The M40 southbound between junctions 10 and 9 in Oxfordshire is affected by a collision. In Scotland, the A82 is restricted in both directions at Tomnahurich Street following a collision. Across Wales, the M4 both directions between junctions 32 and 34 is delayed due to a serious accident. And on the trains, major disruption continues on Gatwick Express and southern routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's a great British giveaway Golden Summer Celebration. Your chance to win 2 fantastic prizes. There's an incredible £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also get your hands on a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I've been in Westminster for a long time.
But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Jubes & Co. Coming up tonight.
Maybe there could be a limited edition, Widder's Whiskey, where the tasting notes may reflect unique, unforgettable flavours, a fiery, spicy series of tones, but a blend to be treasured to eternity.
To Anne Widdecombe have continued to pour in the Commons today, and in news that will come as no surprise to anyone, let's face it, Anne Widdecombe's murder is now being investigated as a potential act of terrorism. I'll bring you the very latest on that. Also, as we will be on air tonight, the Immigration and Asylum Bill will be going through the Commons again. Will it be watered down then, do you think, in this new Labour world that we seem to find ourselves in? Also, action will finally be taken on the IRGC, a group which has been prescribed across the land in many places. A question for you then, do you think that our approach in the UK goes far enough? And in one of his final acts as a Prime Minister, Keir Starmer has announced funding of over £250 million to boost Jewish community safety. What do you think to that? Is it enough? And will we actually be able to ever guarantee this community's safety? If not, why not? And what should be done? Keeping me company for all of that and more, my panel tonight, the Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy and the Labour MP Tris Osborne. But before we get stuck in, let's cross and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Good evening. 2 minutes past 6. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Well, as you've just been hearing, counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old man in custody has since been re-arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. This comes as the suspect is believed to have driven almost 300 miles to her home in Devon on the day of her death. Devon and Cornwall Police confirmed they're not currently looking for any other suspects. Miss Widdecombe was found dead at her home on Thursday. Police believe she was killed nearly 24 hours earlier, around midday. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood gave this update.
Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, Anne Widdecombe was murdered in her home. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing. Counter-terrorism policing have now taken the lead in the investigation. As Lawrence Taylor, the head of National Counter-Terrorism Policing, has said, and I quote, "We now have new information and evidence that means counter-terrorism policing is leading the investigation. We are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack." The police now have a suspect in custody, a 28-year-old white British man. And I can confirm to the House that this man was not known to prevent.
The government has announced it's using new powers to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a written letter, the Home Secretary told Parliament that they've identified actively linked to the IRGC involving threats to life and intimidation on UK soil. Support for the IRGC from expressing a positive opinion to assisting them will be an offence punishable by up to 14 years in prison. The government will today set out the legal steps it will take to deport the freed ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang. Shabir Ahmed was jailed for 22 years in 2012 for a multiple counts of child sexual offences, including rape. He was released from prison on licence earlier this month. Calls have mounted across the political spectrum for the deportation of Ahmed, who was stripped of his British citizenship following his conviction, leaving him with only Pakistani nationality. 12 people have been arrested as a part of an investigation by counter-terrorism policing in London. The investigation, which is extreme right-wing terror-related, is connected to a suspected threat directed towards an Islamic event held in Suffolk over the weekend. Due to the concerns over the possible threat, advice was provided via Suffolk Police to the organisers of the event to close early. The Prime Minister has released a statement thanking the quick action taken by the police, adding, "My message is clear. I will not tolerate any attacks on our Muslim communities or any form of anti-Muslim hatred." Argentina's foreign minister called Falkland Islanders an artificially implanted population. He also said the 2013 referendum held on the islands, in which locals voted 99.8% to remain British, was illegitimate and called for negotiations over the Falklands' future. Number 10 have denied the claim, saying the